Chapter 28-25. Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls shouted and unleashed the full power of the formation. A total of 100,000 beams of sword qi were formed in the void, forming a net of swords that covered the sky and the earth, enveloping the area above. Jiang Hongxiu's exquisite divine body was fully activated and emitted a surge of exquisite aura. This caused the exquisite phoenix jade to tremble slightly, causing the invisible power that the star emitted to weaken rapidly. "Attack!" The Lord of the Blue Dome immediately shouted. "Hongxiu, I'm sorry. But don't worry, the exquisite phoenix jade will be yours." Li Huai and the small sword king, Lu Chao, said. They immediately activated the power of the crippled emperor brush and attacked Jiang Hongxiu. The power of a quasi-emperor artifact's attack was powerful enough to kill a peak divine emperor. "I knew you guys would attack. You shameless bastards." Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls gritted their teeth. Although they were mentally prepared, they were still furious when they saw this scene. Jiang Hongxiu had expected this. She didn't even turn her head as she pressed down with her jade-like hand, causing the exquisite chessboard to appear. The unpredictable chessboard forcefully shifted the incomplete Emperor Brush's attack to the other side of the void and attacked the omnipresent ferocious beast. Li Huai and the small sword king, Lu Chao, joined forces and struck the crippled Emperor Brush across the void and attacked Jiang Hongxiu. At the same time, the two of them jumped off the crippled Emperor Brush and activated their divine bodies to the maximum, releasing a shocking aura. In order to deal with Jiang Hongxiu, they had to go all out. However, at this moment, a shocking scene occurred. A crisp and melodious sound of a bell came from afar. It was loud and clear. Immediately after, a terrifying aura swept over, causing everyone present to feel a great pressure. Emperor aura? Qin Nan and the Lord of the Blue Dome were shocked and quickly turned their heads. They saw a huge immortal light in the boundless darkness. Within the light, there was a bell that was 10,000 feet tall. It was the Yu family's emperor artifact, the Tian Yu bell. There were two figures on it. They were Dong Wangqing and one of the three girls of the Yu family, Yu Xueling. Dong Wangqing smiled faintly. From the very beginning, he had made up his mind to follow Jiang Hongxiu. The reason he went to the world within the painting was firstly to convince the three women of the Yu family. Secondly, it was a feint. When the time came, there would be a pleasant surprise. Since he had taken a fancy to Jiang Hongxiu and wanted to take her as his concubine, he had to do it. Dong Wangqing's eyes shone with a divine light. He wanted to see what Jiang Hongxiu was looking for. Dong Wangqing's eyes narrowed immediately. If it were other heaven's favorites, perhaps they wouldn't be able to recognize what this item was. However, he had once heard the description of the exquisite dragon phoenix jade by chance. Therefore, he recognized it at a glance. "Miss Hongxiu, you didn't expect this, did you? I've come all the way here to return the favor." Yu Xueling smiled and made a hand seal. The Tian Yu bell rang 3 times, each time louder than the last. It seemed to resound through the darkness. Boom! A monstrous power, like the Milky Way, struck down on Jiang Hongxiu from above. Not only was the power enormous, but it was also extremely destructive. It also caused great damage to one's soul. If a peak divine emperor was carelessly hit by this attack, not only would his physical body be destroyed, but his soul would also be destroyed. He would completely disappear from the world and would never be able to recover. Previously, when they entered the world within the painting, they did find a great opportunity. However, it wasn't something that could be obtained quickly. At this time, Dong Wangqing found them and told them that Jiang Hongxiu must have obtained another great opportunity. Moreover, Dong Wangqing could easily bring them out of the painting. Yu Xueling knew that unless the three of them joined forces, they would never be able to defeat Jiang Hongxiu and snatch away her opportunity. However, the three of them couldn't give up on the opportunity in the painting. Therefore, after discussing with her two sisters, Yu Shuailing decided that the two sisters would stay in the painting while she brought the Dharch artifact. She only made one move so that she could give Jiang Hongxiu a big headache. Jiang Hongxiu's eyes turned cold. Immediately, she summoned a tube lamp. The lamp lit up without any fire. A sacred intent swept out from the lamp and resisted the attack. It was a quasi-emperor artifact. The battle between women is so scary. Li Huai and Lu Chao were sweating. They didn't expect Yu Shuailing to use her Dharch artifact just to vent her anger. Although I hate Dong Wangqing, he did a good job. The owner of the Blue Dome was delighted. He couldn't wait to clap his hands. With the help of these two geniuses, the owner of the Blue Dome had a 50% chance of winning. Qin Nan frowned slightly. He hated Dong Wangqing very much. Yu Shuailing watched as Jiang Hongxiu dispelled the power of the heavenly netherworld bell. She said indifferently, "Brother Dong Wang, I've done what I wanted to do. Now, it's up to you." She pretended to leave. Dong Wangqing reacted at this moment and quickly said, "You can't leave yet." "Why? Brother Dong Wang, you still want me, a weak woman, to help you?" Yu Shuailing frowned slightly. Actually, she was disgusted by arrogant people like Dong Wangqing. If it wasn't to deal with Jiang Hongxiu, she definitely wouldn't have anything to do with such a person. "Do you know what Jiang Hongxiu is looking for?" Dong Wangqing quickly told her about the origin of the exquisite phoenix jade. After Yu Shuailing recovered from her shock, she quickly calmed down and said, "It's Jiang Hongxiu's opportunity to find the exquisite phoenix jade. Even if I help her, I won't be able to get it. Could it be that the young master of the supreme sacred sect wants to work with a weak woman like me?" After saying that, she looked at Qin Nan and the others and said, "Moreover, looking at the current situation, even if we work together, we won't have much hope. They will definitely stand on Jiang Hongxiu's side at the crucial moment, right?" Dong Wangqing ignored the sarcasm in her words. He glanced at Qin Nan and the others and said indifferently, "I won't work with anyone. You don't have to care so much. I'm just telling you that, if you can make 10 moves, I'll give you 3 Transcendence Divine Pills." Leisure Book City is a free-source changing application software for reading books. Android phones require Google Play. Google Play download and install. Apple phones require non-Chinese accounts to download and install. Chapter 28-26. Yu Shuailing was silent for a moment before she said, "All right, I will only make 10 moves. The result has nothing to do with me." With that, the tranquil sky bell once again emitted a dazzling divine light and rang continuously. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying power continuously descended from the sky. The light of the quasi-thearch weapon that Jiang Hongxiu had struck out dimmed instantly, and the divine intent collapsed. A quasi-thearch weapon was ultimately a quasi-thearch weapon. It was no match for a real Dharch weapon. Sacred Realm Descend. Dong Wangqing arrived in the sky. His body emitted a magnificent holy light, illuminating the heaven and earth in all directions. Sacred Realm Divine Body erupt. Formless heaven and earth transformed into a sacred realm. In this sacred realm, he was the only king, the true ruler. Dong Wangqing formed a hand seal, and 9 sacred dragons appeared in the sky. Each of them was extremely large and had a mighty dragon aura. They seemed to possess extremely strong spiritual intelligence. Instead of rushing down rashly, they cooperated with the tranquil sky bell's Dharch aura and attacked Jiang Hongxiu. Jiang Hongxiu formed a hand seal and summoned her quasi-thearch weapon, a 7-story bronze pagoda. The pagoda and the ancient lamp resonated with each other, and their auras combined to form a primordial array. Together, they guarded the void and resisted the Dharch weapon's aura. At the same time, she waved her hand, and the exquisite fire that had spread across the entire star turned into powerful phoenixes. They spread their wings and let out a long cry as they fought with the sacred dragons. The exquisite sacred fire that she had used earlier was not only to find the exquisite phoenix jade, but also to use the jade to nourish the fire. It would be useful at the critical moment. Haha, this is a good opportunity. The Blue Dome Lord could not help but laugh. Now Jiang Hongxiu was facing a pincer attack from two supreme talents and an arch weapon. If they attacked with all their might, how could Jiang Hongxiu stop them? Let's talk to her first, Qin Nan said from the side. Don't worry, I don't like to fight and kill. It's best if there is no bloodshed. The Blue Dome Lord was in a good mood. He quickly sent a voice transmission to Jiang Hongxiu and said with a smile, Taoist Jiang, what do you think? It's still the same as before, as long as you lend us the half-cloud Immortal King flower for 2 days. Jiang Hongxiu continued to ignore him. She continued to set up the exquisite chessboard in the air. Through the changes in the chessboard, a portion of the heavenly desolate bell and Dong Wangqing's power was immediately transferred to Qin Nan and the others. F***CK. What was going on with her? At this point, you're still not willing to agree to our request? The Master of the Blue Dome was astonished. The exquisite divine body and the exquisite heart. Jiang Hongxiu must be a person with great wisdom. It was impossible for her not to see the current situation. Hongxiu, Li Huai and Small Sword King Lu Chao revealed a strange look in their eyes. She was indeed the woman they were infatuated with. Even in the worst situation, she would never lower her head. In the face of the storm, she was still like a celestial lotus, blooming proudly. This woman, I really don't understand what she's thinking. The Master of the Blue Dome grumbled. His eyes gradually sharpened as he said, Since it has come to this, there's nothing more to say. Li Huai and Small Sword King Lu Chao sighed in their hearts, and apologized in silence. The power of the extreme Yang divine body was fully unleashed, and the immortal sword that contained the will of the Emperor was fully awakened. Qin Nan glanced at Jiang Hongxiu. Even though he was slightly unwilling, he could not afford to hesitate now. He immediately transmitted his divine sense. Boom! A tremendous aura soared into the sky. The Emperor's body and the time saber had arrived at the same time. The radiance of the distant heavenly abyssal bell seemed to have dimmed significantly at this moment. The prodigal son of the Qin family can actually summon the Emperor's body and monarch weapon at will? Yu Xueling's eyes were filled with astonishment. She then glanced at Dong Wangqing and said with a faint smile, Cultivator Dong Wang, I'm afraid your plan is going to fail. Dong Wangqing's expression remained unchanged as he said, Since I've already made my move, I won't fail. Yu Xueling raised her eyebrows. Under such circumstances, Dong Wangqing would definitely not be able to snatch the exquisite phoenix jade away. Does this mean that Dong Wangqing's target was never the exquisite phoenix jade? What was Dong Wangqing's real target? Hongxiu, why are you so stubborn? The time blade and I don't want to attack you. After all, you're also a member of the Qin family. At this moment, the Emperor's body spoke. Its voice rang in Jiang Hongxiu's mind. Seniors, this is my own choice. Seniors, you don't have to worry about it. We'll use our own methods. Jiang Hongxiu said faintly. All right then. The Emperor's body nodded slightly. Its body suddenly moved and descended above Jiang Hongxiu. It then threw a punch at her. The time blade slashed forward and dazzling blade light shone in all directions. Li Huai and Small Sword King Lu Chao followed closely behind and executed their Emperor technique. A terrifying pressure instantly descended upon Jiang Hongxiu. Although this wave of attack did not contain any killing intent, the power it contained was much stronger than Dong Wangqing and Jiang Hongxiu's. Sister Hongxiu. Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls' expressions changed drastically. However, they were powerless to do anything. Their bodies were completely held back by the various ferocious beasts in the void. They were unable to free their hands at all. Qin Huan didn't help Jiang Hongxiu? Li Huai and Small Sword King also attacked together with Qin Huan? Yu Shuiling's face was filled with shock. This scene was too strange. Dong Wangqing was also stunned for a moment. Soon after, the corner of his lips curled up. Interesting. This is really interesting. Chapter 28-27. I heard that Jiang Hongxiu doesn't acknowledge Qin Huan and doesn't want to borrow the power of the Qin family. I didn't expect them to become enemies. Yu Shuiling's eyes flickered and said, if they continue like this, Brother Donghuang, you will have a lot of chances. Indeed. Dong Wangqing nodded. Just as Yu Shuiling had predicted, his initial goal wasn't to take down the exquisite Phoenix Jade. Although he was conceited, he hadn't lost his mind. With Jiang Hongxiu's means and the help of Qin Huan and the others, he wouldn't stand a chance. Then Yu Shuiling attacked again. The heavenly desolate bell let out a melodious chime and released a peerless emperor's aura. Dong Wangqing also unleashed a peerless emperor technique. With the support of his saint domain, the might of this emperor technique increased explosively, giving people a feeling that it was as easy as crushing dry weeds. In an instant, a monarch body, 2 monarch weapons, and 3 god-favored talents all attacked Jiang Hongxiu. The terrifying force that erupted from it caused large expanses of space to shatter into pieces. Moreover, the terrifying will within it even swept through an area of a few million miles. Qin Nan stood on the broken emperor brush and watched the scene quietly. Although he was under the protection of the tattered emperor brush's emperor aura and wasn't affected at all, his realm wasn't high enough to understand what level the power had reached. However, he knew that Jiang Hongxiu was under immense pressure. Moreover, she couldn't retreat. If it was other treasures, she could choose to take a step back and let Yu Shuiling, Dong Wangqing, and Qin Nan and the others suspect each other and scheme against each other. However, this was the exquisite Phoenix Jade, and she couldn't back down. She could only choose to fight head-on. How are you going to deal with this? Qin Nan's eyes lit up as he thought to himself. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying murderous intent arrived and Jiang Hongxiu had to take action. She slapped out with her jade hand, causing the copper lamp to suddenly charge up and emit an enormous bang before completely shattering into pieces. Moreover, a large strand of divine aura gushed out from it. She had sacrificed a quasi-emperor weapon. However, even if he detonated a quasi-emperor weapon, he would only be able to block the killing intent for a moment or two. He would not be able to turn the situation around. However, Jiang Hongxiu made use of this short period of time to perform amazing means. She formed hand seals and unleashed an ancient art. Exquisite light shone from her body, overlapping with the holy light radiating from Dong Wangqing. Jiang Hongxiu flicked her finger and a stream of exquisite fire floated out. It ignited all the light and instantly turned it into exquisite fire. Dong Wangqing's saint domain was completely used by Jiang Hongxiu. Now, she was the ruler of this place, the only king. Linglong True Body. Jiang Hongxiu waved her hand and 3 figures that looked exactly like her appeared in the void. Each of them gave off the aura of a peak divine emperor. He actually has such a powerful clone. Yu Shuiling's pupils shrank. Not only that, the 3 clones were in the exquisite fire. With the support of the exquisite fire, their auras immediately soared, as if they were about to reach the level of Jiang Hongxiu herself. Moreover, Jiang Hongxiu was not done yet. With a wave of her hand, 3 powerful auras soared into the sky. 3 different quasi-emperor weapons appeared. Although she did not take out any emperor weapons from the Jiang family, she had many quasi-emperor weapons. 4 guardians Dao sealing formation. Jiang Hongxiu formed hand seals, and so did the 3 clones. Suddenly, countless array runes appeared in the void and turned into an ancient array in the blink of an eye. 4 huge shadows of ferocious beasts rushed up from the north, south, east, and west of the array. They roared at the sky and surged with mighty power. They forcibly resisted the killing intent that filled the sky. Jiang Hongxiu's red robe fluttered in the wind. She looked extremely dazzling. What an amazing means! She made full use of everything around her. A light flashed in the eyes of the Blue Dome Lord. The defensive power of the Four Guardians' Dao Sealing Formation is extremely strong. Even with the Emperor body and 2 Emperor weapons, it will take a few dozen breaths to break it open. In that time, Jiang Hongxiu could completely take down the exquisite Phoenix Jade. Jiang Hongxiu must have even more amazing life-saving trump cards. Once she took down the exquisite Phoenix Jade, they would definitely have no more chances. But now, if they wanted to break the Four Guardians' Dao Sealing Formation, they would need to use even more powerful means. The eyes of the Blue Dome Lord flickered. He suppressed his urge to attack. Now was not the time for the heavenly steel of sun and moon to appear. Boom! 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 Deafening explosions resounded in the darkness. A terrifying storm swept out in all directions. The Emperor body suddenly reached out and grabbed the time saber. The 2 terrifying auras merged into one. The will of immortal Emperor Zhu Fa seemed to have reappeared in the world. Since they had attacked, they would not show mercy. Boom! Zhu Fa's saber intent rushed down. The Four Guardians' Dao Sealing Formation immediately trembled violently. Cracks appeared on the countless array runes. It was obvious that it could not hold on for much longer. Jiang Hongxiu moved and flew towards the exquisite Phoenix Jade. At this moment, time seemed to have slowed down. Every breath seemed to have become incomparably long. When Jiang Hongxiu's figure was about to reach the star, Dong Wangqing's aura suddenly surged. Chapter 28. Reading the Sea of Books, the Unparalleled Fighting Soul. Supreme Holy Decree, Immortal Emperor descends. Dong Wangqing unleashed 9 drops of immortal emperor blood and ignited it. In an instant, a majestic figure appeared out of thin air. The figure was made up of countless thunderbolts, flames, snow, and other elements. It was emitting an imperious aura. Even with the presence of the monarch body and the 2 monarch weapons, it felt like it was going to suppress everything in this place. Although the difference between Dong Wangqing's aura was like the difference between heaven and earth, the 2 of them were extremely similar to each other. Very good. The Blue Dome Lord praised in his heart. He was waiting for Dong Wangqing to use his trump card. Rumble! The Celestial Emperor's phantom flew across the sky and slapped down with his palm. A force as vast as the sea burst forth and immediately cracked the Four Guardians' Heaven Sealing Formation, causing the Four Guardians' phantoms to become incomparably dim. The immortal Emperor Phantom summoned by Dong Wangqing was different from ordinary immortal Emperor Phantoms. It was summoned with 9 drops of immortal Emperor blood. The might it possessed was no weaker than an Emperor weapon for a short period of time. We can't block it anymore. Li Huai and Lu Chao's eyes narrowed. Although they were attacking Jiang Hongxiu, their hearts were completely on Jiang Hongxiu's side. Let's wait a little longer. The Blue Dome Lord was still restraining himself. It was not the critical moment yet. Jiang Hongxiu must have a backup plan. Rumble! Finally, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. The Four Guardians' Sky Sealing Formation was completely shattered and turned into light spots that filled the sky. Not only that, Jiang Hongxiu's 3 doppelgangers suffered a great impact. Their bodies immediately became illusory and were on the verge of dispersing. However, at this moment, a dazzling immortal light shone under the many terrifying wills. Jiang Hongxiu's voice became extremely loud and resounded throughout the heavens and earth. Jiang family blood, great void descends. An ancient and terrifying aura descended from the unseen world. A huge bronze door suddenly appeared in the endless darkness. An old man walked out from the door. This old man had white hair and white brows. He had a peaceful expression and held a horsetail whisk in his hand. Although his body did not emit any light, the moment he appeared, It was as if everything in the world had lost its luster and began to dim. The ancestor of the Jiang family, Jiang Taishu? Yu Shuiling was shocked. Hong Xiu has obtained Jiang Taishu's approval? Li Huai and the small sword King Lu Chao were also shocked. Jiang Taishu, the legendary immortal emperor, was the one who single-handedly established the Jiang family. Although Jiang Taishu had left his legacy in the Jiang family, no one from the Jiang family had ever been recognized by Jiang Taishu. The emperor's body and the time blade were silent. They already knew about this. It was because of the talent that Jiang Hongxiu had displayed that Jiang Huaiming had made her become Dao companions with Qin Nan. Jiang Hongxiu was already a young immortal emperor. However, it was too difficult for her to become a true immortal emperor. The journey was extremely dangerous. Therefore, Jiang Huaiming wanted to borrow the strength of the Qin family to help Jiang Hongxiu. Jiang Hongxiu, your talent is indeed not bad. You have actually obtained the approval of the legendary immortal emperor. However, is this your last resort? With just your will, you won't be able to stop us at all. Dong Wangqing said. Rumble. The emperor's body wielded the time blade and slashed out once again. The heavenly desolate bell rang rapidly, releasing a monstrous might. Jiang Taishu's figure suddenly slapped out with his palm. Many mysterious runes appeared in the heavens and earth. However, just like what Dong Wangqing had said, he was just an illusory figure. No matter how strong he was, there was a limit to his strength. In just an instant, Jiang Taishu's body was completely suppressed, as if there was a supreme mountain on his back. I have a supreme technique, immortal emperor as I wish. At this moment, Dong Wangqing used an even more shocking technique. He activated a forbidden technique. The illusory figure of the immortal emperor that he summoned actually merged with his body, causing his aura to suddenly rise to an extreme level. At this moment, Dong Wangqing seemed to have become a true immortal emperor. His might shook the entire world. Hand of the heavenly Tao. Dong Wangqing stretched out his palm. The entire heavens and earth seemed to listen to his command. Boundless majestic power descended, forming an invisible hand that could not be seen by the naked eye. It directly grabbed towards the huge star. Majestic power surged down violently. The entire star seemed to have sensed it and began to tremble violently. This huge hand represented the will of the heavenly Tao. Nothing could stop it. The body of the Blue Dome Lord immediately tensed up. He was ready to attack at any time. Divine Taishu Talisman. At this critical moment, Jiang Hongxiu formed a seal. A faint smile appeared on Jiang Taishu's face. At the same time, he formed a seal. A huge talisman that was 100 feet tall rose in front of Jiang Taishu and burned fiercely. A terrifying power was suddenly released from the talisman and turned into divine light that filled the sky. Divine Emperor Talisman? Yu Shuiling, Li Huai, and the small sword King Lu Chao were all shocked. We've been tricked. The expression of the Blue Dome Lord changed. When Jiang Hongxiu summoned Jiang Taishu's illusory figure, they should have destroyed it immediately. Jiang Hongxiu did not want to use Jiang Taishu's illusory figure to fight against them. Instead, she wanted to use Jiang Taishu's illusory figure's power to activate the Divine Emperor Talisman. This was because Jiang Hongxiu's own strength was not enough to activate the Divine Emperor Talisman. What's there to fight? We're finished. The face of the Blue Dome Lord immediately sank. The Divine Emperor Talisman had already been activated. Even if they used everything they had, it would still be enough to hold them off for around 30 breaths. Jiang Hongxiu could easily claim the exquisite Phoenix Jade within 30 breaths' time. It's over. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment as he stood on the broken monarch brush. Even though they had failed, Qin Nan did not feel bad at all. Jiang Hongxiu was exactly like Empress Feiyue. She had turned the tables around on her own despite being surrounded by so many enemies. All of a sudden, Qin Nan had a bad feeling about this. Chapter 28-29. This was not the end yet. When Dong Wangqing saw Jiang Hongxiu activating the Immortal Emperor Divine Talisman, he did not show any expression on his face. Without any hesitation, he changed his movement technique and rushed towards the broken Emperor brush like a dragon emerging from the sea. The majestic aura crushed the broken Emperor brush, causing the light of the Quasi-Emperor artifact to rapidly dim. The entire brush trembled violently. Dong Wangqing's gaze landed on Qin Nan. A strong killing intent was released from his body. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect such a change to occur. Only death awaits those who resist me. Dong Wangqing shouted coldly and cast an ancient forbidden technique. Countless rays of light gathered from all directions and gathered in his palm. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into an illusory halberd. He moved extremely quickly. With a wave of his hand, the halberd immediately tore apart the Quasi-Emperor aura released by the broken Emperor brush and charged towards Qin Nan with a monstrous aura. This technique was called the Wrath of the Heavens. When the heavens were angry, all living beings in the world would have to pay the price in blood. Not good. The Blue Dome Lord's expression changed drastically. Obviously, Dong Wangqing had his eyes on Qin Nan from the very beginning. If he failed to obtain the exquisite Phoenix Jade at the crucial moment, he would take advantage of the fact that no one could react and kill Qin Nan. The Blue Dome Lord did not expect this at all. He did not expect Dong Wangqing to be so bold as to kill Qin Nan when he, Li Huai, and the Small Sword King were all present. Therefore, for the Blue Dome Lord, everything happened too quickly. With his current cultivation, he could not react in time. Qin Nan was in danger. You want to kill the successor of the Qin family with such a petty trick? A thunderous voice exploded between heaven and earth. The Emperor body and the Emperor artifact instantly disappeared and returned to Qin Nan's body. Two terrifying auras burst out from Qin Nan's body and soared into the sky. They also didn't expect that Dong Wangqing would be so crazy. However, Dong Wangqing had underestimated them too much. They had guarded the Qin family for hundreds of years. The members of the Qin family had suffered all sorts of assassination attempts before. Why was it that the Qin family hadn't been destroyed yet? That was because no matter what they did, they would always prioritize protecting the bloodline of the Qin family. No matter what kind of killing intent descended upon them, they would be able to react in an instant. Boom! The Emperor body and the Time Blade Sovereign Qin Nan's body slashed out a shocking blade light. It contained a will that didn't even place the heavenly Tao in its eyes. It was as if it wanted to completely cut it apart. Phew! Thank goodness! The master of the Blue Dome heaved a sigh of relief. He, who possessed the innate chaotic body, was right beside Qin Nan. If Dong Wangqing were to succeed, it would be too embarrassing. Ah, what a pity! Li Huai and the Small Sword King Lu Chao both sighed in their hearts. Boom! A terrifying collision occurred in the void. Qin Nan was in the middle of this storm. Looking at Dong Wangqing, who was right in front of him, a strong intuition suddenly surged in his heart. Is Dong Wangqing really here to kill me? No. Something's wrong. Seniors, stop him. Qin Nan didn't think too much and quickly shouted. He believed in his intuition. Dong Wangqing definitely had other intentions. However, it was still too late. Dong Wangqing coldly smiled at him as he executed an ancient technique. His figure was like a heavenly god as he instantly appeared above Jiang Xiaoya and the other 8 girls. This scene came too suddenly. Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls opened their beautiful eyes wide. They didn't even have time to react before Dong Wangqing blasted out a punch. A vast force blasted away the ferocious beasts in all directions. At the same time, it also shattered their formation. All of them were forced to retreat. Dong Wangqing formed a hand seal and slapped his palm downwards. Whispers of ghosts and gods could be heard in the void around them. A black light that seemed to have come from the abyss shot out and rushed into Jiang Xiaoya's body like lightning. "Is this your original target?" Yu Xueling's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of surprise. "What exactly is that black light? What the F***ck? The Blue Dome Lord, Li Huai, and the small sword King Lu Chao were all stunned. Dong Wangqing didn't want to kill Qin Nan at all. It was just a diversion. At this moment, in the Immortal Emperor's divine talisman, Jiang Hongxiu had just obtained the exquisite Phoenix Jade. She didn't expect such an unforeseen event to happen. Her expression changed slightly, and her pair of beautiful eyes instantly turned cold. Dong Wangqing. A shocking killing intent was released from her body. The other 8 girls came back to their senses. Their expressions were shocked and angry. They quickly formed a formation and attacked Dong Wangqing. At the same time, they asked Jiang Xiaoya, "Xiaoya, are you okay?" Just as Jiang Xiaoya was about to speak, her face suddenly turned pale. An extremely painful sound came out from her mouth. Not only that, her white skin started to turn black at a shocking speed. Waves of decaying aura gradually came out from her body. Her vitality started to dissipate bit by bit. It was as if she was turning into a ghost. "Xiaoya!" The other 8 girls' expressions changed drastically. Jiang Xiaoya was poisoned. Moreover, it was an extremely terrifying poison. Even with Jiang Xiaoya's cultivation, she couldn't even hold on for a breath of time. Dong Wangqing saw this situation and laughed loudly. He spread out his wings and quickly retreated. His aura also started to return to normal. Divine light glowed in his eyes. It passed through the Immortal Emperor's divine talisman and landed on Jiang Hongxiu's body. "Jiang Hongxiu, since I said that I want to take you as my concubine, I will definitely make you my concubine. Since Qin Huan doesn't know how to appreciate my kindness, I can only take action against you. Although your methods are heaven-defying and extraordinary, you have a fatal flaw. Guardians are a great help, but at the same time they are also a burden. The other chosen of heaven might not have such a burden. Once the Tao Protector encountered something that would implicate them, they would not hesitate to abandon him. However, I have checked on you. They grew up with you and are like sisters. You are also very affectionate. I believe you are unwilling to abandon your friendship, right? I have injected the god-slaying voodoo poison into this girl's body. After 30 breaths, she will fall into the 5 signs of celestials. 1 day later, she will die completely. In this world, only I have the antidote. Jiang Hongxiu, you only have 1 day to make a choice. Either you give up on this girl or you break off your relationship with Qin Huan and become my concubine. Jiang Hongxiu, I am looking forward to your choice." Ha ha ha! While laughing loudly, Dong Wangqing's figure rapidly disappeared. Only a special jade tablet was left behind, quietly floating in the air. Chapter 2830. God-slaying voodoo poison? Li Huai came to his senses and his eyes narrowed. Anger rose in his chest and he could not help but curse. Despicable! This Dong Wangqing is too despicable. Shameless! Small Sword King Lu Chao's face turned green with anger. Damn it, this Dong Wangqing is indeed not a good person. He actually used such a despicable method. The Blue Dome Lord's face was also a little pale. Of course, they knew about the origin of the god-slaying voodoo poison. It was an extremely rare and ancient poison with extremely powerful poison. Even if it was in existence at the peak of the Immortal King realm, if they didn't have an antidote for this poison, then they would definitely die. Jiang Hongxiu quickly flew out of the Celestial Emperor's divine talisman and came to Jiang Xiaoya's side. She then shot out streaks of exquisite aura into her body. Moreover, she also took out many valuable heavenly treasures and rare immortal pills. She refined all of them with her exquisite fire and injected them into Jiang Xiaoya's body. However, Jiang Xiaoya's condition did not improve at all. Instead, it became more serious. The decaying aura from her body became more and more intense. Even the surrounding void was affected. Her body, divine power, divine jade, divine sea, and divine soul were all deteriorating at an alarming rate. This was also the 5 deteriorations of celestials that Dong Wangqing had mentioned. Once she deteriorated completely, it was equivalent to entering a state of suspended animation. Without the antidote, there was no way to save her. Sister Hongxiu. When the other 8 women saw this, they were angry and a little sad. They did not know what to say. They were not willing to see Jiang Xiaoya die. They were even more unwilling to see their beloved sister Hongxiu become the concubine of such a despicable and shameless person. Jiang Hongxiu took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She turned her head and looked at the Blue Dome Lord. Brother Zhao, I know that your background is not simple. If you can cure Xiaoya, I will give you the half-cloud immortal king flower. Li Huai suddenly came to his senses and said anxiously, Brother Zhao, please help Hongxiu. I will definitely repay you in the future. Small Sword King Lu Chao also quickly agreed. The master of the Blue Dome sighed in his heart. I can only try. He walked forward and channeled a mysterious technique in his body. His hands gradually turned the color of glass. The Lord of the Blue Dome silently chanted an ancient incantation, and illusory flames appeared on his 10 fingers. The Lord of the Blue Dome quickly extended his hands and tapped Jiang Xiaoya's body. The decaying aura emanating from her body immediately began to calm down. Before Li Huai and the Small Sword King Lu Chao could rejoice, the master of the Blue Dome helplessly withdrew his hands and said, The god-slaying voodoo poison's poison is too strong. I can only temporarily seal the 5 decay of the celestials in her body and extend her life by 1 day. Is there no other way? Jiang Hongxiu asked in a deep voice. Yes, I have at least 5 prescriptions here that can help her detoxify. However, many of the heaven and earth treasures required for these 5 prescriptions can only be found in other world. Now that we are in the immortal Emperor tomb, even if we can find some, we won't be able to find all of them within 2 days. The Lord of the Blue Dome shook his head. Sister Hongxiu. At this moment, Jiang Xiaoya had barely regained some consciousness. She used all her strength to squeeze out a smile on her face and said, Promise me in the future, you must be happy. When she was very young, she was already prepared to give up her life for Sister Hongxiu. As Sister Hongxiu's protector, she could not be a burden to Sister Hongxiu. She could not let Sister Hongxiu become the concubine of such a scumbag. She knew that Sister Hongxiu would definitely not abandon her, so she chose to commit suicide. However, before she could finish the last 3 words, Jiang Hongxiu flicked her finger and released an invisible force that tapped her shoulder and neck, causing her to fall unconscious. She had already seen through her thoughts, and she would not allow it. Serene Xueling, who was in the distance, immediately let out a bell-like laughter when she saw this scene. Jiang Hongxiu, it seems like you have made your choice. This time, Dong Wangqing is lucky to have such a beautiful concubine. After saying this, she kept the heavenly abyss bell and quickly left the place. This time, she had already achieved her goal. Shui Yao and Shui, you would definitely be in a good mood after hearing this. Li Huai and the Small Sword King Lu Chao's faces instantly turned ugly. If Serene Xueling was a step slower, they would definitely teach this little b***tch a lesson. Jiang Hongxiu looked at Jiang Xiaoya's face quietly. After a few seconds, she turned around and looked at Qin Nan. Hongxiu, are you really going to? Li Huai and the Small Sword King Lu Chao were shocked. However, before they could finish their words, Jiang Hongxiu flicked out 2 rays of sword qi that slashed the void in front of them. Don't tell me you want to break off the relationship with me? Qin Nan looked at her calmly. That's right. I will not abandon Xiaoya. As long as you agree to break off the relationship with me, I will give you the half-cloud immortal king flower. If you have any other conditions, feel free to state them. Jiang Hongxiu said expressionlessly. I don't agree. Qin Nan shook his head and rejected without thinking. Jiang Hongxiu frowned slightly. Just as she was about to say something, Qin Nan smiled faintly and said, Perhaps I can help her detoxify. Chapter 28:31. You! Jiang Hongxiu was stunned. The Lord of the Blue Dome, Li Huai, Lu Chao, and the others were also stunned. Qin Huan. Even if you're joking, you should pay attention to the situation. Li Huai snapped out of his stupor. He had been holding back his anger, and now he exploded. He taunted Jiang Hongxiu. You want to cure the god-slaying voodoo poison with your insignificant cultivation? Or do you think you can do anything with the Emperor's body and Emperor's weapon? What a joke! Although the Emperor's body and Emperor's weapon had unparalleled power and some incredible abilities, they were not real celestial emperors and did not have earth-shattering skills. In fact, in many matters, the Emperor's body and Emperor's weapon were far less useful than a celestial lord or even a celestial king. Are you sure you can do it? The Lord of the Blue Dome's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, This god-slaying voodoo poison is not a simple ancient poison. If you don't treat it well, it will backfire on you. Brother Zhao. What do you mean? Li Huai and Lu Chao were stunned. From the Lord of the Blue Dome's tone, did he really believe that Qin Huan could cure the poison? Jiang Hongxiu frowned again. She did not expect Qin Huan to say such a thing. However, she thought the same as Li Huai and Lu Chao. She did not think that Qin Huan could really cure the poison. She was about to say something, but Qin Nan seemed to have expected it. He continued, Let me try. If it really doesn't work, I promise to break off our relationship. How about that? Jiang Hongxiu's brows relaxed. She said lightly, If you can really cure the god-slaying voodoo poison, I will give you the half-cloud immortal king flower and owe you a big favor. Qin Nan nodded at the Lord of the Blue Dome. He did not look at Li Huai, Lu Chao, and the others. He went directly to Jiang Xiaoya's side. Seeing this, the Blue Dome Lord could not help but feel delighted. Others might not believe it, but he did. After all, this kid came from the future. Although his cultivation was a little weak and his knowledge was a little lacking, he might have mastered some kind of mystical technique. Li Huai, Lu Chao, and the others did not expect that Qin Nan would really try to cure the poison. Just as they were about to say something, Qin Nan's body suddenly emitted a mysterious aura. This is... Jiang Hongxiu's pupils contracted slightly. Li Huai and Lu Chao did not recognize it, but she recognized it immediately. This aura was the power of time and space. How could Qin Huan grasp the power of space-time? Then, Qin Nan formed a seal and stretched out his right hand. A gray illusory flame immediately ignited in his palm. It fluttered slowly and looked extremely weak, as if it would be extinguished by the wind at any time. Qin Nan could not help but grin. Although his cultivation was as weak as an ant in this illusory world, it was not completely useless. Go! Qin Nan swung his right hand, and this wisp of space-time fire immediately landed on Jiang Xiaoya's body. It was like a wisp of flame landing on a pile of withered grass, instantly igniting Jiang Xiaoya's body. Space-time reversal! Qin Nan shouted softly, and Jiang Xiaoya's body immediately underwent a shocking change. This was the power of the space-time fire. Wherever the flame burned, it could reverse the flow of time. Although Qin Nan had just condensed the space-time fire, the flame could still be weak, and it could only reverse the flow of time to the place where the flame was burning to the time before it burned an incense stick, but that was more than enough. This was also the reason why Qin Nan had been so happy when he had condensed the space-time fire. Although his current spacetime fire could only be activated once a day, it could play an incomparably crucial role in a great battle. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could bring someone back to life. The darkness on Jiang Xiaoya's body receded like the tide, and a vigorous vitality began to emanate from her body. Her pale face gradually regained its color. What kind of flame is this? Li Huai, Lu Chao, and the other 8 women were all shocked. They could not believe what they were seeing. Furthermore, this inconceivable flame actually came from Qin Huan, the famous hedonist Qin Huan. Ah! The owner of the Blue Dome couldn't help but laugh. Dong Wangqing, you despicable bastard. You've thought of everything, but you didn't expect this, right? Dong Wangqing, that bastard, must be very proud of himself now? Perhaps he is still imagining the scene of Jiang Hongxiu bowing her head proudly to him and transmitting her divine consciousness to him one day later? TSK. I wonder what kind of expression that bastard will have when he realizes that Jiang Hongxiu didn't transmit her divine consciousness a day later, and then realizes that Jiang Hongxiu's guardian is not dead? The owner of the Blue Dome thought of that scene and found it very interesting. But then again, although the Spacetime Sutra is extremely difficult to cultivate, its ability is extremely abnormal. Qin Nan has only cultivated to the 9th level, which is equivalent to having an extra life. The owner of the Blue Dome thought to himself. Soon, Jiang Xiaoya's body was completely reversed to the state it was in 30 minutes ago. A dark ray of light was also forced to appear from her body. Quick! Stop this god-slaying voodoo, or it will return to Dong Wangqing's hands. Qin Nan immediately shouted. Jiang Hongxiu did not hesitate at all. She struck with lightning speed and directly suppressed the god-slaying voodoo. Chapter 28:32. Jiang Xiaoya's body returned to normal, and she gradually woke up from her coma. When she regained her consciousness, she immediately noticed her body's condition. She was full of vitality, and she no longer felt despair. Jiang Xiaoya's beautiful eyes widened, and she said anxiously, Sister Hongxiu, you can't agree to that bastard's request. If you agree for me, I'd rather die. When the other 8 women saw this, they immediately relaxed and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Even Jiang Hongxiu had a smile on her face. How can you all still laugh? Why didn't you stop, Sister Hongxiu? Jiang Xiaoya was so anxious that she was about to cry. Where is that bastard Dong Wangqing? I definitely won't take his antidote. I'll take it right now. All right. Look around carefully. Where is Dong Wangqing? The other 8 women smiled. Jiang Xiaoya was stunned. She looked around. It was still the same place, and Dong Wangqing was indeed nowhere to be seen. What's going on? How did my god-slaying voodoo poison get cured? Could it be that you saved me? She looked at the Blue Dome Master. From her understanding of Sister Hongxiu, she definitely couldn't cure the god-slaying voodoo poison, let alone Li Huai and the small sword king Lu Chao. The only possibility was this mysterious fellow Taoist Zhao. It's not him. It's Qin Huan who saved you. When the other 8 women said this, their expressions were rather strange. Qin Huan. Jiang Xiaoya was shocked. The Qin Huan that she hated and looked down on? Hee, Sister Jiang, now that the matter has been settled, isn't it time to fulfill your promise? The Blue Dome Master walked up and rubbed his hands excitedly. Jiang Hongxiu nodded, and her expression returned to normal. Without any hesitation, she took out the half-cloud Immortal King flower. This flower isn't very useful to us. We'll return it to you after we complete our mission. Qin Nan kept the flower and said. The Master of the Blue Dome had no objections to this. He stood to the side and took out a compass. Rays of light shot out from the compass and entered Qin Nan's body one after another. Judging from the previous situation, they would have to wait for about a day before the boundary artifact's consciousness would descend and inform them that they had completed the trial. At the same time, the next trial would be announced. Now was the time for him to make preparations in advance and seize that short window of opportunity. No need. You can keep this flower. Jiang Hongxiu shook her head. She looked at Qin Nan with her beautiful eyes and said, I still have to collect the immortal emperor's talisman. Can you come with me? Qin Nan froze for a moment, then nodded with a smile. On the other side, Li Huai and the small sword king, Lu Chao, saw Qin Nan and Jiang Hongxiu flying towards the star side by side and gradually reacted. The look in their eyes was extremely complicated. I really didn't expect that Qin Huan actually concealed it so deeply. If that's the case, I'm afraid that he's just pretending to be a playboy. Li Huai could not help but sigh. This person is not simple. The small sword king, Lu Chao, was silent. The two of them looked at each other and suddenly realized that they did not hate Qin Huan as much. Jiang Hongxiu had become Qin Huan's cultivation partner. This was already an established fact. Even if Jiang Hongxiu and Qin Huan separated one day, they would not be able to marry Jiang Hongxiu again. Jiang Hongxiu would definitely not be willing to become their concubine. There was already no possibility of them continuing to be together with Jiang Hongxiu. The reason why they were hostile towards Qin Huan previously was because they felt that Jiang Hongxiu was wrong to be with Qin Huan. Actually, now that I think about it, your sword skills are pretty good. Li Huai suddenly said. You're not bad either. You're qualified to be my opponent. A faint smile appeared on the small sword king Lu Chao's face. They also suddenly realized that Qin Huan did not seem as annoying as before. Furthermore, he had many shining points and was filled with an inexplicable attraction. The Emperor's body and Emperor's weapon watched all of this silently from within Qin Huan's body. The two mighty existences sighed at the same time. If this was really Qin Huan's doing, then it would really be a blessing for the Qin family. On the other side, Qin Nan and Jiang Hongxiu arrived at the dilapidated star. Jiang Hongxiu's jade-like hands continuously formed seals, causing the power of the immortal emperor's talisman to gradually calm down. The two of them did not speak. After a long while, Jiang Hongxiu sent a voice transmission faintly. If I'm not wrong, you're not Qin Huan, right? Even if you deliberately hid yourself and used some concealment technique, you can't hide from the Jiang family's true Taishu steel. True Taishu steel? Qin Nan raised his eyebrows slightly. When you first came to the Jiang family as a guest, my father used the true Taishu steel to see everything about you, including your cultivation technique, your talent, and so on. Jiang Hongxiu said. The corner of Qin Nan's mouth twitched. If that was the case, Jiang Huaiming might have also realized that he was not Qin Huan? Then why didn't Jiang Huaiming look for him in private? Jiang Hongxiu seemed to have read his mind and said, My father might not have realized it. After all, he would not suddenly use the true Taishu steel again. As she said that, Jiang Hongxiu turned her head to look at Qin Nan. There seemed to be a divine light flowing in her eyes. It was glistening. So, who exactly are you? What's your relationship with the space-time temple? My real name is Qin Nan. I'm considered a disciple of the space-time temple. I can't tell you my specific origins in detail. You can understand that I'm from the future. Qin Nan did not hide anything and admitted it openly. From the future? Jiang Hongxiu raised her eyebrows and asked with interest, What has the future become? I'm not sure about your future. Even if I knew, I couldn't tell you. The space-time laws won't allow it. Qin Nan shook his head. Indeed. Moreover, I'm afraid you can't casually interfere in some things. Otherwise, it will cause chaos in the future. Jiang Hongxiu quickly understood the key point. Qin Nan, thank you so much this time. I owe you 2 favors. Jiang Hongxiu said. 2 favors? Isn't it just one? Qin Nan was stunned. I once made up my mind that no matter what, I would never borrow the power of the Qin family. Jiang Hongxiu blinked. Although her expression did not change much, one could feel that she was in a good mood. Since you are not Qin Huan, I didn't go against the rules. Leisure Book City is a free-source changing application software for reading books. Android phones require Google Play. Play download and install. Apple phones require non-Chinese accounts to download and install. Chapter 2833. Qin Nan did not continue to disturb Jiang Hongxiu. He quickly came to the Blue Dome Master's side and whispered, "How is it? Everything is ready. We're just waiting for that old bastard, the boundary device, to appear." The Blue Dome Master took back his compass and laughed. He winked and said, "You turned the tide this time. Does Jiang Hongxiu see you in a new light? Doesn't she owe you a favor? If you propose to consummate your marriage with her now..." Qin Nan's face darkened. He said angrily, "Am I such a shameless person? She has already discovered that I am not Qin Huan." The Blue Dome Master's smile became even stranger. He said, "If she falls in love with you, it will be even more interesting. If Qin Huan wakes up and finds out, he will be so angry that he will vomit blood." Qin Nan's face fell. Just as he was about to scold this indecent guy, Jiang Xiaoya had already calmed herself down and looked at him. "Qin Huan, thank you for saving me this time. However, I personally still don't like you. I still insist that you are not good enough for Sister Hongxiu." Jiang Xiaoya said seriously. "Qin Huan, thank you." The other 8 girls cupped their hands and bowed with sincerity. "You don't have to be so polite. I also got the half-cloud immortal king flower." Qin Nan waved his hand. "Sister Hongxiu gave it to you. I still have to thank you. I owe you a favor." Jiang Xiaoya suddenly smiled slyly and said, "However, if one day you can keep up with Sister Hongxiu's footsteps, I will persuade her to accept you." After saying that, Jiang Xiaoya and the other 9 girls flew towards Jiang Hongxiu and let out a string of bell-like laughter. "TSK TSK. Based on my experience, this girl might have a good impression of you. Qin Nan, kid, work harder. You might be able to take down Jiang Hongxiu and the 9 girls together and enjoy the happiness of having multiple partners." The Blue Dome Master teased. "If you continue to talk nonsense, don't blame me for being rude." Qin Nan rolled his eyes. At this time, Hongxiu had already put away the broken talisman. She glanced at Qin Nan's group and immediately took out the exquisite phoenix jade. She unleashed her exquisite flame to incinerate the jade. Waves of exquisite qi were emitted from it, spreading out in all directions at a shocking speed. Jiang Xiaoya and the other 9 girls regrouped and formed a formation to help her. Now that he had obtained the phoenix jade, he could use it to deduce the exquisite dragon jade. There was no need to go through so much trouble like before. Brother Zhao, Li Huai and Small Sword King Lu Chao flew over at the same time. They glanced at Qin Nan, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Qin Huan, since you have obtained the half-cloud immortal monarch flower, can we leave now?" "Yes." Qin Nan nodded. "Many thanks to the 2 of you this time." The Lord of the Blue Dome patted the 2 of them on the shoulder, even though they didn't actually do much. "Then, shall we go as well?" Qin Nan asked. "There is indeed no need to stay here any longer. Let's go out together." The Lord of the Blue Dome nodded. However, at this moment, the exquisite phoenix jade suddenly trembled violently. Phantoms of phoenixes soared into the sky, spreading their wings and emitting loud and clear cries. Jiang Hongxiu's closed eyes slowly opened. She said plainly, "My friends, are you interested in the things inside the myriad corpse sealing formation?" The eyes of Qin Nan and the other 3 lit up. "Do you have any clues?" The Lord of the Blue Dome asked quickly. "I don't have any specific clues, but when I was deducing just now, I vaguely sensed that the other half of the exquisite dragon jade is inside the myriad corpse sealing formation. I'm afraid that it is sealed inside together with the origins of the gods." Jiang Hongxiu said. The exquisite dragon jade is also inside? You mean? The Lord of the Blue Dome thought of something. That's right. Jiang Hongxiu nodded and said, everything here is probably related to the owner of the exquisite dragon phoenix jade. Since the exquisite phoenix jade was left outside and the exquisite dragon jade was left inside, there must be an exit for me to find the exquisite dragon jade. Otherwise, there is no point in leaving the exquisite dragon phoenix jade behind. That makes sense. Li Huai's eyes lit up. It is very likely that when you deduce the exact location of the exquisite dragon jade, you will also know where the gap is. Interesting, interesting. The Lord of the Blue Dome narrowed his eyes. Then what do you mean, Taoist Jiang? Let's work together? The owner of the exquisite dragon phoenix jade intended to split the jade into two, so she must be deliberately testing me. Since that is the case, I would like to work together with all of you. All of you will help me obtain the exquisite dragon jade, and I will help all of you obtain the origins of the gods. Jiang Hongxiu was very thoughtful. If I am the only one who obtains the exquisite dragon jade, and all of you have not obtained the origins of the gods, then I will also give all of you some benefit. I agree. Li Huai quickly nodded. I am willing to work together. The small sword king, Lu Chao, immediately nodded. Qin Nan looked at the Lord of the Blue Dome and transmitted his voice. Do we have the time? Qin Nan was eager to get his hands on the god's origin with the Xiantian martial body. We still need a few days to deduce the location of the boundary weapon. Let's agree first and see how it goes. As long as it doesn't take too long, we will give it a try. The Lord of the Blue Dome thought carefully and said, since that is the case, let's work together. The Lord of the Blue Dome nodded and glanced at Li Huai and the small sword king, Lu Chao. This time, you can at least call the guardians together, right? Of course, of course. Both of them smiled awkwardly. Chapter 28:34. Time passed by slowly. 4 hours later, all the exquisite qi in the air suddenly entered Jiang Hongxiu's body. Jiang Hongxiu also ended her deduction. A gap has appeared. Jiang Hongxiu's words shocked Qin Nan and the others. A gap has appeared? The master of the Blue Dome asked in surprise. What's going on? When I was calculating the exact location of the jewel dragon jade, I suddenly saw a change in one of the formations. Jiang Hongxiu said. A change? The master of the Blue Dome frowned slightly and asked, is it big? I'm not sure yet. Let's go out first. Jiang Hongxiu waved her hand and summoned the divine boat. Qin Nan and the others quickly left the giant's body and returned to the ancient city. The world within the painting was still suspended high above the ancient city. Moreover, deep rumbling sounds were continuously emitted from within. Clearly, an intense battle was currently erupting between the heavens-prided geniuses within. Let's go to the east, Jiang Hongxiu said without stopping for a moment. After 10 minutes, the group of people who were rushing forward felt a strange feeling in their hearts at the same time. They all looked up at the group of corpses in the sky. There seems to be a cultivation technique circulating in the bodies of these corpses. What's going on? Li Huai was shocked. Although Qin Nan could not sense it so clearly, he could clearly see that the bodies of the sky corpses were emitting rays of light and were gradually becoming brighter. At this moment, an unexpected change occurred once again. Numerous incomparably ethereal dragon roars resounded in their hearts, causing their eyes to become dazzled as they saw a scene. Suddenly, a golden light as vast as the sea descended from the vast sky. One after another, huge dragon shadows swam out from the golden light. Not only that, the sky corpses seemed to have been baptized and reborn under the golden light. Their bodies moved one after another and slowly stood up. The image did not last long. After a few breaths, it disappeared and returned to normal. I suddenly have a strange feeling in my heart. I have to go to the east, as if there's something very important there. Qin Nan frowned. I have the same feeling. Li Huai and Lu Chao nodded in unison. It would appear that the owner of the exquisite Dragon Phoenix Jade did not plan to allow you to easily obtain the exquisite Dragon Phoenix Jade. The Blue Dome Lord looked at Jiang Hongxiu and said, "This scene will probably appear in the minds of all the cultivators who enter this place. At that time, most of the cultivators will be attracted to it. Some cultivators might be cautious, or they just happen to obtain some great opportunity, so they won't rush outside. However, those geniuses will definitely rush there." The faces of Qin Nan and the others turned solemn when they heard this. There were dozens of geniuses who had come to the Three Saints' space this time. If they were all attracted to the Three Saints' space, it would definitely be a great battle. It would be extremely difficult to secure the Jewel Dragon Jade and the God Origins in such a huge battle. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people there are. Jiang Hongxiu said calmly, showing an invisible domineering aura. Then, the group flew directly to the east without any hesitation. Just as the Blue Dome Lord had said, at that moment, a shocking change appeared in the hearts of all the geniuses and cultivators. Those geniuses did not hesitate at all. They quickly transmitted their thoughts to their clansmen and sects, and they all followed the mysterious feeling. If one were to look down from a high vantage point, one would discover that these figures were like specks of light that were converging towards a certain place from all directions. A great storm was about to take shape. At the same time, in an ancient forest in the Three Saints' space, boom, 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 deafening explosions rang out, and terrifying auras surged in all directions. Two figures were fighting here. If Qin Nan was here, he would immediately recognize that one of them was the Jiang family's genius, Jiang Chu. At this moment, Jiang Chu no longer had the slightest bit of arrogance. His face was covered with blood, and there were dozens of wounds on his robe. He looked very miserable. Even as a genius, it was normal for him to be in such a situation. However, it was different this time. Jiang Chu's eyes were filled with fear. In the past, whether it was when he fought against the Heaven's Chosen or those who were stronger than him, he almost never showed such an expression. However, the man in front of him was different from those he had fought before. Although the man's cultivation was slightly higher, reaching the peak of the Tao End realm, it was not the most terrifying thing about him. He had fought against the man for 100 breaths. No matter what he did, it felt like he had sunk into a boundless ocean without any ripples. If he could not even shake the man in the slightest, how could he continue fighting? Wait, are you from the Space-Time Temple? Jiang Chu suddenly thought of something, and his face was filled with astonishment. We have been fighting for 100 breaths, and you only realize that I am from the Space-Time Temple now? It seems like the younger generation of the Jiang family is not that great. The man looked disdainful. A family established by a legendary celestial emperor is only SOSO. Jiang Chu's face flushed red. No matter what, he was still a member of the Jiang family. He was naturally furious that the man had insulted the Jiang family in front of him. Suddenly, the man seemed to have noticed something, and his aura calmed down. You are lucky. I will spare your life today. The man turned into a jet of black light and disappeared on the spot. Chapter 28:35. Time flew by. 2 hours later, Qin Nan and the others finally arrived at the place where the image was. Compared to before, the scene had become even grander. The sky within a radius of 90,000 miles had turned into a golden color. There were over 100 golden dragons swimming in the sky. The dragons were dancing together, and dragon roars were unceasingly heard. In addition, the heavenly corpses were holding various colored light brushes and writing in the void. Every stroke of their brushes released an invisible force. Law within law, formation within formation. The Blue Dome Master saw through the mystery at a glance and said, This place is undergoing a transformation. We can only enter the sealed land after the formation within the formation is completely formed and we break it. Qin Nan and the others nodded and looked around. At this time, hundreds of powerful cultivators had arrived. Among them, there were more than 10 God-favored ones. The more famous ones were Meng Dongji from the Meng clan, Zhang Xinjue, the young master of the ancient Baron sect, Yan Yongning, the son of the realm master of the non-Dao world, Zhui Yu, the son of the realm master of the Sky Heart world, and Lei Hongshan, the son of the realm master of the Sky Mystic world. These God-favored ones were surrounding Lei Hongshan and chatting with each other with smiles on their faces. They seemed to have a very harmonious relationship. Lei Hongshan. Li Huai suddenly thought of something and said, "If I remember correctly, Lei Hongshan has awakened the Supreme Thunder Divine Constitution. Then this guy is quite lucky." The Blue Dome Master said. It was very likely that the source of gods of the Supreme Thunder Divine Constitution existed in the sealed land. Lei Hongshan noticed them at this time and his eyes lit up. He immediately walked forward and cupped his hand. "Brother Jiang, Brother Li, Brother Lu, long time no see." As for Qin Nan and the others, they were habitually ignored. "Brother Lei, you must be here for something, right?" Li Huai asked directly. "Indeed. I believe the three of you know that I have awakened the Supreme Thunder Divine Constitution." Lei Hongshan smiled and said, "I came this time because I want to know if the three of you can help me after entering the sealed land." "I'm not interested." Jiang Hongxiu shook her head. Li Huai and Lu Chao also declined tactfully. "All right then. I hope the three of you will show mercy when the time comes." Lei Hongshan did not get angry. He smiled faintly and turned around to leave. He did not say anything unnecessary. Time slowly passed. One after another, the geniuses arrived one after another. Their Tao protectors and the cultivators of their respective factions naturally came from all directions. Although the current scene was not as grand as the opening of the Three Saints space, it was not much inferior. It was worth mentioning that Jiang Xing and Jiang Chu had also rushed over. However, this time, the two of them were extremely low-key, and did not look for trouble with Qin Nan. They stood far away and constantly scanned the surroundings as if they were looking for something. Not long after, Zhao Wushuang of the Zhao clan, Yi Taiji of the Yi clan, Dong Wangqing, the three ladies of the Yu clan, and the other geniuses flew over from afar. Behind them were more than 100 powerful cultivators. Dong Wangqing. The smiles on the faces of Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls instantly disappeared. Their faces were cold, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. Qin Nan, the Lord of the Blue Dome, Li Huai, and Lu Chao also showed a trace of disgust in their eyes. Dong Wangqing and the three ladies of the Yu clan quickly noticed Jiang Hongxiu. The former's eyes lit up while the other three immediately prepared to mock Jiang Hongxiu and spread the news. However, in the next moment, Dong Wangqing and Yu Shuiling's pupils shrank. "Jiang Hongxiu, can I still call you Madam Qin now? I think I should call you Luo." Yu Shuiyao and Yu Shuiyu laughed. However, before they could finish their words, they were immediately stopped by Yu Shuiling. "Sister, what's wrong?" Yu Shuiyao and Yu Shuiyu were puzzled. After Yu Shuiling transmitted a message to them, the two ladies' faces were immediately filled with shock. Very good, very good." Dong Wangqing reacted and clapped his hands. He even showed a trace of a smile on his face. However, his smile was a little cold. "I didn't expect that even the god-slaying voodoo poison could be cured. Jiang Hongxiu, this must not be your doing, right? It seems like you have an expert by your side." His gaze swept past Qin Nan and the others. In the end, his gaze landed on the owner of the Blue Dome. "It's just a mere god-slaying voodoo poison. How dare you take it out and embarrass yourself?" The owner of the Blue Dome intentionally hid Qin Nan's identity. He immediately nodded and admitted it with a look of disdain. "May I know who you are?" Dong Wangqing asked indifferently. Dong Wangqing, you are not qualified to know the identity of our big brother. Li Huai said with disdain. Your big brother? Dong Wangqing raised his eyebrows slightly and said, Interesting, interesting. After entering this sealed land, I would like to see what you're capable of. After saying that, Dong Wangqing turned around and left. He didn't show too much on his face. However, everyone could feel that he was obviously in a bad mood. At the same time, 9 deafening bell sounds suddenly came from the sky. A mysterious aura suddenly formed in the sky. Like a storm, it wreaked havoc in the heavens and the earth, covering a radius of 1,000,000 miles. Everyone's gazes immediately turned to look at him. Fellow Taoists, this formation within a formation is extraordinarily powerful. None of us can break it with our own strength. Seeing the situation, Lei Hongshan immediately said loudly, Fellow cultivators, I believe you all know what's inside. Since that's the case, let's attack together and break this formation. After saying that, Lei Hongshan took the lead and attacked first. Dazzling lightning exploded from his body. The other geniuses and cultivators were also clear about the power of this formation. Without any nonsense, they attacked with their powerful attacks. Chapter 28:36. It was a shocking sight to behold. Even a peak immortal emperor would not be able to stop the attack. However, the formation within the formation was clearly not that easy to break. The golden dragons swooped down and transformed into all kinds of weapons that landed on the heavenly corpses. The heaven corpses held the dragon weapons and let out a roar into the sky, executing various powerful arts. Deafening blasts spread across a few million li large swaths of space, shattered, and turned into nothingness. This battle lasted for half an hour before the last heavenly corpse was completely defeated. A deafening roar resounded in the depths of the sky, and a pitch-black hole appeared in the dazzling golden light. A desolate aura immediately poured down from the hole and filled the place in the blink of an eye. It felt like they had entered the ancient era. The geniuses swiftly executed their shocking moves upon seeing this. Almost all of them burst into the hole at the speed of an immortal emperor. Qin Nan's group was led by Jiang Hongxiu, Li Huai, and Lu Chao, so they were not slow either. They entered the hole at the same time as the geniuses. Qin Nan felt his body turning light as he landed on the ground. He immediately scanned his surroundings and saw them in a pitch-black place. Under their feet was a blue stone dojo covering an area of 10,000 li. There was nothing above the dojo, nor was there any other special aura. The cultivators followed behind them. A few moments later, the darkness ahead suddenly surged like a tide. A mysterious light appeared and rapidly approached the dojo. Not long after, everyone saw the light clearly. It was an immortal palace. The immortal palace only had 3 floors, but it was enormous like a mountain. Its aura was ancient. At the top of the immortal palace was a statue of a golden dragon. The dragon's head was standing on a bronze door. Its eyes seemed to be watching the cultivators. Not only that, but there were also 3 pieces of jade floating above the dragon's head. Each piece was the size of a cauldron and was filled with dense runes. They were all emitting different kinds of mysterious light, illuminating the darkness in all directions. Origin of the gods. All the cultivators were shocked, and many of them even began to breathe rapidly. Extreme lightning source. Lei Hongshan's eyes were fixed on the divine origin standing in the middle. The lightning radiance emitted from his body involuntarily became even more dazzling. That is the innate martial body's origin of the gods. Qin Nan's eyes were fixed on the first piece of pantheon origin on the right. The moment it appeared, all of the blood in Qin Nan's body began to boil on its own. Even his soul began to throb a little, as if it was being sucked in by a powerful force. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, Lei Hongshan and the other geniuses made their moves. They knew that it would not be easy to obtain the origin of gods. However, if they could get a head start, it was still a head start. As for what they would encounter later on, they could resolve it one by one. However, before they could unleash their divine abilities, a terrifying invisible force surged over and sealed their bodies. Little friends, there's no need to be impatient. At this moment, a hoarse voice rang out. After that, the tightly shut bronze gate slowly opened to the sides, and an illusionary old man wearing a gray robe walked out from the gate one step at a time. The moment he completely walked out of the palace, a terrifying aura was released from his body, causing the expressions of all the cultivators present to change slightly. The aura of a quasi-emperor. The Blue Dome Master narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "Moreover, this aura is far stronger than that of an ordinary quasi-emperor. It seems that this person had a divine body before he died." The illusory elder glanced ahead. His eyes seemed to pierce through the darkness and the three saints' space to see the situation outside. He could not help but sigh softly and said, "I really did not expect this place to be unintentionally involved in the location of the boundary weapon. Fate really makes fools of people." Lei Hongshan reacted and took a step forward. He clasped his hands together and said respectfully, "Senior, may I know what we can do to obtain the origin of gods?" The illusory elder turned his head and ignored him. His gaze landed on the crowd and finally landed on Jiang Hongxiu. He said, "I was once known as Lonely Taoist. To be precise, this place was not left behind by me. It was left behind by my Tao partner." Everyone's expression changed slightly. What was going on? Why did this elder say this to Jiang Hongxiu? Dong Wangqing and Yu Xueling's eyes flashed slightly. "Junior Jiang Hongxiu greets Senior." Jiang Hongxiu bowed and said, "May I know who your Tao partner is?" "I won't mention her name." Lonely Taoist shook his head and said, "However, she paid a great price in order to leave the exquisite dragon phoenix jade to the exquisite divine body. Therefore, I hope you will not disappoint her and pass all the tests." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. What was the exquisite dragon phoenix jade? My friends, you don't know about the exquisite dragon phoenix jade? Let me explain it to you. Dong Wangqing smiled faintly and immediately told them everything about the exquisite dragon phoenix jade. What? At this instant, even the geniuses were greatly shocked, as their expressions changed. To Jiang Hongxiu, this was a great opportunity. If she could obtain it, the benefits would be unimaginable. Damn it! Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu cursed in their hearts, and their faces turned gloomy. Why was Jiang Hongxiu able to encounter such a great opportunity? This Dong Wangqing is not a good person. Jiang Xiaoya, the 9 girls, Li Huai, and Lu Chao could not help but curse in their hearts. I understand. Jiang Hongxiu looked calm. Lonely Taoist nodded and looked at everyone present. He said, "Although everything here is left for the exquisite divine body, it does not mean that you have no chance. Now let me tell you the rules." Chapter 28:37. Most of the people heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this. As long as there was still a chance. Firstly, no one is allowed to make a move in this training ground. If anyone violates this rule, not only will I send them out of this place, but I will also give them a small gift, such as letting them sleep for half a year or something. Although Taoist Ji Sheng's tone was gentle, it made many people's hearts tighten, and they immediately extinguished some of their thoughts. If they were to sleep for half a year because of this, there would be no meaning to this Dharma Immortal Assembly. The test this time is divided into 3 stages, which are the Hellfire stage, the Extreme Thunder stage, and the Divine Martial stage. After hearing these titles, I'm sure all of you can guess what is going on. These 3 stages are indeed set up according to the 3 gods' origins. Each stage will evolve into an independent space. After one stage ends, you will rest for 10 minutes before starting the next stage. As for the specific content, I won't say it. You will naturally know after you enter. As soon as he said that, many proud sons of heaven immediately looked at Lei Hongshan. Lei Hongshan had awakened the extreme thunder divine physique and cultivated many powerful thunder technique. He would definitely have an advantage in the extreme thunder pass. Lei Hongshan was slightly happy, but now wasn't the time to be happy. In terms of advantages, Jiang Hongxiu had a greater advantage. This exceptional opportunity was reserved for her. The divine martial stage? Qin Nan and the Blue Dome Lord immediately looked at each other. No matter what the divine martial stage is like, martial talent is definitely extremely important. The Blue Dome Lord smiled and said, Kid, it seems like you have a chance to show off your strength. A ray of light appeared in Qin Nan's eyes. A long-awaited feeling of anticipation rose in his heart. It was even a feeling of hot-bloodedness. Ever since he came to this illusory realm, he had been relying on the Blue Dome Lord, the Emperor's physique, and the Emperor weapon to get to where he was now. He didn't do much himself. Although he helped Jiang Hongxiu and resolved Dong Huangqing's trick, he wanted to meet these people more. He wanted to fight for and obtain with his own strength. Now the opportunity had come. In terms of cultivation and background, Qin Nan was far inferior to these geniuses, but in terms of martial talent, Qin Nan was confident that he wouldn't lose to them at all. Everyone's gaze was gathered on Taoist Xing Ji. Many of the geniuses felt a trace of nervousness and solemnity in their hearts. What came next was the most crucial part. In each of these three stages, there is a token placed inside each stage, which is the Karmic Fire token, the Supreme Thunder token, and the Divine Martial token. Priest Xing Ji didn't stop and continued, Jiang Hongxiu, as the Linglong Divine Body, if you can obtain 2 tokens, the remaining Linglong Dragon Jade, and the 3 Origins of Gods will all belong to you. Even if others obtain 1 token, it is meaningless. On the other hand, if you haven't obtained both tokens and only obtained one of them, then you won't be able to obtain anything. The Origins of Gods corresponding to the token that you obtained will be up for grabs by others again. The Linglong Dragon Jade will disappear from the world forever. As Priest Xing Ji spoke until here, his illusory eyes suddenly shone with divine light and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This isn't the end. Jiang Hongxiu, before you participate in the test, you can only choose 6 people to help you. The 3 Origins of Gods that you obtained can only be given to 6 people. These 6 people must refine the Origins of God. If you want to give the Origins of Gods to others, the seal in the Origins of Gods will be activated, causing the Origins of Gods to shatter and turn into dust without any power. As soon as he finished speaking, there was an uproar in the training ground. Most of the geniuses were delighted. Even Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu couldn't help but laugh out loud. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? As such, as the Linglong Divine Body, not only did Jiang Hongxiu not gain any advantage, but she was also at a disadvantage. The rule set by Priest Xing Ji meant that there were only 2 outcomes. First, Jiang Hongxiu would obtain all the Origins of Gods. Second, others would obtain them. This meant that Jiang Hongxiu was immediately placed on the opposite side of most people. It should be pointed out that there were more than 30 geniuses and hundreds of peak divine emperors present. Jiang Hongxiu could only choose 6 people. Even if the 6 of them were geniuses, they could only summon the experts of their respective forces. The total number of them added up to only 20% of the cultivators present. Jiang Hongxiu still had to obtain 2 tokens for it to be meaningful. Her chances of winning were less than 10%. Moreover, under such circumstances, how could 6 geniuses be willing to help her? Qin Nan, Lu Chao, Li Huai, and Jiang Xiaoya instantly understood the stakes, and their expressions changed. The owner of the Blue Dome was even more annoyed. He scolded, "Why are you so bad, old man? Can the Bullsh *T rule you set still be called a rule? It's fine if you don't give special treatment, but you don't even have the slightest bit of fairness. You obviously want Jiang Hongxiu to become everyone's enemy. You even said that this is the inheritance left for the Linglong divine body. I think you don't want her to obtain it at all. Priest Xingji ignored him. Instead, he looked at Jiang Hongxiu and said flatly, "He's right. This test is to make everyone your enemy. If you feel that it's unfair or unwilling, I can give you some benefits on account of the fate between you and my wife. You can leave now." Jiang Hongxiu said without hesitation, "I won't leave." "Very good." Priest Xingji's eyes were filled with admiration. He said, "Then you can choose 6 people. I will put a mark in their bodies." Chapter 28:38. As soon as he said that, some of the favored ones who had interacted with Jiang Hongxiu before and even owed her favors, such as the young master of the Lin family, Lin Qing, and Meng Dongji from the Meng family, immediately spoke up. "Hongxiu, I'm afraid I can't help you with this. Sister Hongxiu, there aren't many disciples from our family here. I can't help you much." In their opinion, instead of letting Jiang Hongxiu take the initiative to look for them, they might as well take the initiative to shut her up. On the other side, besides Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu's protectors, there were also many disciples from the Jiang family. One of them asked, "Brother Saint, Brother Chu, should we go over?" Jiang Chu looked at him coldly and said, "Are you so stupid? Since Taoist Xingji is so against Jiang Hongxiu, she definitely has no hope of getting the opportunity. If we go with her, we will be wiped out." "That's right. For the Jiang family, we can't go with her," Jiang Xing said resolutely. At this moment, Dong Wangqing laughed and said, "Jiang Hongxiu, although I don't have a protector, there are many experts from the Supreme Holy Gate. Why don't you join forces with me?" Yu Xueling also smiled and said, "Miss Jiang, do you need our Yu family's help?" Anyone could tell that these two geniuses had no intention of helping Jiang Hongxiu at all. They deliberately said that just to annoy Jiang Hongxiu. Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls glared at them angrily, but Jiang Hongxiu chose to ignore them. She looked at Qin Nan and the others and said, "Everyone, this is the situation now. If you don't want to, I won't force you." Qin Nan's expression returned to normal. He smiled faintly and said, "I don't have a problem. Anyway, I don't have any cultivation. I can't do it by myself. It's better to join forces with you." The Lord of the Blue Dome glared at Taoist Xingji for a while before retracting his gaze and said, "Don't worry. Isn't it just going against everyone? With Qin Huan and I helping you, there won't be a problem." Li Huai and Lu Chao were about to say something, but their clansmen and disciples behind them hurriedly transmitted messages to them. "Hongxiu, no matter what, since we've agreed to join forces with you, we'll definitely help you to the end." The two of them did not care so much and spoke first, causing the expressions of the clansmen and disciples to change as they revealed bitter smiles. "I'll tell them. I'll try my best to get them to help us," Li Huai said to Lu Chao and turned around to leave. Jiang Hongxiu looked at them and paused for a moment. Then she nodded and said to Taoist Ji, "Senior, I have chosen the 6 people. Other than Qin Nan and the other 3, there was also Jiang Xiaoya and another woman. Eldest young Miss Jiang, why are you doing this? Why are you rejecting the good intentions of our Yu family?" Seeing this, Yu Xueling pretended to feel pity and said, 6 people is already very little, but you only chose 2 God-favored ones and 2 protectors. One is a supreme heavenly venerate and the other is a playboy. Even if the playboy can summon the Emperor's body and Emperor's weapon, your chances of winning are still less than 5%. Whispers immediately sounded in the training hall. Many people were gloating. Yu Xueling's words were too generous. In their opinion, Jiang Hongxiu had no chance of winning at all. These 3 pieces of pantheon origins were bound to be divided among the heavens chosen. "Are you sure?" Taoist Xingji turned a blind eye to this scene. After seeing Jiang Hongxiu nod, he did not say anything else. He flicked his finger, and 6 rays of light entered the bodies of Qin Nan and the others. After half an hour, the Hellfire Pass will open. Taoist Xing Ji lit an incense stick and disappeared. Many God-favored ones' eyes lit up. They did not expect there to be time. They immediately transmitted their divine thoughts to the others. Everyone, listen to me. Dong Huangqing suddenly said loudly, I know that you want to team up with others. However, there is one thing that you must remember. Once the test begins, the first thing we must do is to defeat Jiang Hongxiu. I believe that everyone knows Jiang Hongxiu's methods. Hence, I hope that everyone will not hold back. Brother Donghuang is right. Brother Jiang, I am sorry. Lei Hongshan was the first to respond. We, the Yu family, will do our best. The other God-favored ones also began to respond. It was as if the vast training ground had been divided into 2 worlds, and an atmosphere of opposition had unknowingly appeared. However, one side was a huge world with countless experts, while the other side was a small world with very few people. This little bastard really knows how to cause trouble. Every time he finds an opening, he will create trouble. He was not like this before. It seems that I have angered him quite a bit. The Blue Dome Lord looked at Dong Huangqing with disdain. He was not angry. Even without Dong Huangqing's words, they would still be the target of public criticism. However, Dong Huangqing wanted them to bear all the pressure before the test even began. I have already convinced the Li family. Li Huai walked over. There is no problem on my side too. Lu Chao followed closely behind and transmitted his voice. Hongxiu, based on our current situation, we must give up on one of the tests and place all our strength on 2 of them. That's right. Jiang Hongxiu looked at everyone and said, Which 2 tests do you think are suitable? The Blue Dome Lord rolled his eyes. Just as he was about to find an excuse to persuade them to choose the 3rd test, Li Huai spoke with a serious expression. In my opinion, we should choose the 1st and 3rd tests. There is no need to talk about the 1st test. I have the extreme yang divine body, and you have the exquisite divine fire. As for the 3rd test, there is no need to talk about it. Hongxiu, your martial talent is the best in the 5 realms. Almost no one can compare to you. Moreover, I believe that Brother Zhao's martial talent must be very strong as well, far surpassing that of ordinary God-favored ones. Qin Nan was surprised. He did not expect Jiang Hongxiu's martial talent to be so strong. Brother Li's words make sense. I agree. The Blue Dome Lord praised. Jiang Hongxiu had no objections. The 2 tests were already decided. The other God-favored ones know about our situation, so they can guess which 2 tests we will choose. Li Huai said, We must come up with a good strategy and catch them off guard. Only then will we have a chance. Chapter 2839. Qin Nan could not join in the discussion of battle tactics because he knew too little about the God-favored ones present and the various forces, so he could not consider everything. Therefore, it was mainly up to Jiang Hongxiu, Li Huai, and Lu Chao to discuss. Even the Lord of the Blue Dome could only take the initiative to mention some of the powerful techniques that he had mastered for them to consider. After a while, the battle tactics were formulated. Qin Nan listened from beginning to end and was amazed. He had gained a lot. It had to be said that Jiang Hongxiu, Li Huai, and Lu Chao did not become God-favored ones only because of their talent and family background. Their thinking, structure, and courage were all extraordinary. As time passed, faint auras appeared in the quiet training ground. Many experts had activated their cultivation techniques to the maximum. Hundreds of auras were locked onto Qin Nan and the others at the same time. Finally, half an hour passed. Taoist Ji Xing did not appear this time. He only said faintly, The 1st stage, the Hellfire Pass. The source of gods, which was formed by the godly physique of hellfire above the fairy palace, immediately shot out a beam of dazzling fire. It hit the darkness in front of them and transformed into a gap with a radius of 100,000 feet. Inside the gap, black flames burned fiercely. A scorching aura swept out from the gap. Some peak divine emperor's expressions changed slightly. The power of the hellfire in the Hellfire Pass was beyond their expectations. Just the aura alone was enough to make them feel a sense of oppression. "Let's begin," Taoist Ji Xing ordered. The entire training ground immediately suffered a huge impact and shook violently. Everyone turned into beams of immortal light and rushed into the gap. The power of the Hellfire Pass was beyond everyone's imagination. The sky was filled with endless flames, and so was the earth. They seemed to be supported by endless origins. The flames did not weaken as they burned, but grew stronger. Qin Nan stood on the broken emperor brush. Although the quasi-emperor aura helped him to isolate all auras, his soul felt a burning sensation and stinging pain. The hellfire was not an ordinary flame. In Buddhism, it was the flame that burned evil in hell. Therefore, its power could not only hurt the physical body, but also the sea of consciousness and soul. Boom! Right at this moment, a shockingly grand fluctuation occurred in the sea of fire in front of them. One mountain after another surged out of the sea of fire. Each mountain was different from an ordinary mountain. They were all condensed from endless black gold flames. In the blink of an eye, a vast mountain range was formed. It was shaped like a dragon and had a majestic aura. Especially on the highest mountain peak, there was an ancient token that was 1 zhang tall floating. On it there was a golden word carved on it, and it was emitting rays of golden light. The eyes of the geniuses immediately lit up. Karmic Fire Token. Karmic fire is divided into 9 colors, with black being the most common and gold being the most powerful. Here, the golden flames are the mountains, and the mountains are the formations. The formations are connected, forming the heaven-burning celestial slaying grand momentum. A cold, ancient voice exploded in everyone's ears. If you enter, no matter what method you use, you will definitely be injured in 1 breath, have your spirit sea shattered in 100 breaths, and have your soul destroyed in 1,000 breaths. Even the expressions of a few heaven's proud sons changed after hearing this. This burning heaven immortal slaying momentum was too terrifying. Not to mention the destruction of one's soul within 1,000 breaths of time. Once the soul was destroyed, there was no way to reverse the situation. Even if one's spirit sea was shattered, it was still a serious injury. They would have to pay a great price and spend a long time to recover their spirit sea. You can use any method and force in this trial, but once the karmic fire badge is obtained, the trial will come to an end. You are not allowed to attack anymore. The cold voice added, after 3 breaths, feel free to do as you please. 3 breaths was extremely short. As soon as the time came, 6 tremendous auras burst out from the flames. Even the sea of fire within 10,000 li was greatly affected, and its flames were extinguished. Apart from the monarch flesh and monarch weapon in Qin Nan's body, and the Yu clan's heavenly netherworld bell, Zhao Wushuang unleashed the Zhao clan's greatest monarch weapon, the heavenly pardon sword. Meng Dongji unleashed the Meng clan's greatest monarch weapon, the 1,000 snow wheels, and Lei Hongshan unleashed his father's world-suppressing cauldron. 1 monarch flesh and 5 monarch weapons appeared in the sky at the same time. Under this, everyone felt an incomparably huge pressure. It was as if a world-ending catastrophe was about to arrive. However, everything was not over yet. A series of explosions resounded as waves of terrifying auras were released one after another. The other geniuses had also unleashed their pseudo-monarch weapons. Although the peak divine emperors did not unleash their pseudo-monarch weapons, they instantly formed a large formation. Their auras were linked together and became one. Even the rogue cultivators had joined the ranks of the geniuses and participated in the battle. A great battle broke out immediately. However, to everyone's surprise, no one targeted Jiang Hongxiu. Instead, their murderous intents were locked onto Qin Nan. Qin Huan, your cultivation is as weak as an ant. This is not a place where you can participate. Get lost. The three ladies of the Yu clan took the lead and activated the heavenly netherworld bell. Zhao Wushuang, Meng Dongji, and Lei Hongshan followed closely behind. A total of 4 monarch weapons erupted with monstrous monarch might at the same time. Not only that, those geniuses and the peak divine emperors that followed them also unleashed their terrifying power towards Qin Nan. Before this test, Dong Wangqing took the lead and the three ladies of the Yu clan came up with a simple battle strategy. If they were to defeat Qin Nan first, Jiang Hongxiu would not have the monarch flesh and monarch weapon to help her. Her battle strength would be greatly reduced. Chapter 2840. Boom, boom, boom. The entire small space seemed to be on the verge of shattering. The Lord of the Blue Dome, Jiang Hongxiu, Li Huai, Lu Chao and the others all felt a terrifying sense of danger. Although the murderous intent was directed at Qin Nan, they were all around Qin Nan and were all affected by it. Even if it was just the remnants of the murderous intent, it could still severely injure them or even kill them. This scene was too terrifying. It was as if they had offended the entire world, and the world would not tolerate them. As the center of the storm, Qin Nan had the Emperor's body and the Emperor's weapon standing above him to block off the murderous intent. However, the formless intent still caused his face to turn pale and his soul to tremble. In the blink of an eye, the light of the sun and moon shone between the heavens and earth. An ancient steel soared into the sky. This is... The three ladies, Dong Wangqing, Zhao Wushuang, Lei Hongshan, Meng Dongji and the other geniuses narrowed their eyes. Heavenly steel of sun and moon? The heavenly steel of sun and moon had been obtained by someone else? Sun and moon across the sky, changed the heavens and earth. The Lord of the Blue Dome crushed a divine talisman and absorbed a majestic and pure energy as he shouted. The heavenly steel of sun and moon let out a crisp sound. An ancient sun and a waning moon appeared in the sky at the same time. A formless wave immediately swept across the area. Swoosh! Qin Nan, Jiang Hongxiu, and the others vanished into thin air. Following the change of the sun and the moon, they arrived close to the mountain range and sensed the fiery intent that was trying to burn everything. Jiang Hongxiu and the others had already guessed that Dong Wangqing and the three ladies from the Yu family would attack Qin Nan. Hence, they were prepared from the beginning. So what if you have the heavenly steel of sun and moon? The three ladies from the Yu family and the other geniuses reacted quickly and rushed towards Qin Nan and the others at an astonishing speed. Not only that, the heavenly desolate bell let out a demonic sound that formed a rolling sound wave that immediately shattered the heavenly steel of sun and moon. The heaven-pardoned sword slashed out a golden sword aura. It pardoned everything in the world except the heavenly steel of sun and moon. The strong sword intent instantly caused the heavenly steel of sun and moon to tremble violently and retreat into the body of the Blue Dome Lord. The Blue Dome Lord was also hit by the impact of the heaven's desolate mountain. The difference between him and Zhao Wushuang's cultivation and the other's Emperor's weapons was Emperor's weapons. However, of the heavenly desolate stars of sun, the heavenly steels heavenly desolate of sun, the heavens and earths of heavens heaven. Lei Hongshan let out a roar. The world-suppressing cauldron in his hand emitted a blinding glow. Wisps of formidable auras of the heavens and earth appeared above Qin Nan and his crew and descended upon them, treating them as traitors of the heavens and earth. Of heaven heavenly, of heavenly heaven, of the Hevoth. 4 seas as king, 8 desolate divine fist. Dong Wangqing circulated his saint domain physique to the extreme. His holy world opened up and shot out an indescribable light that contained terrifying destructive power. Jiang Chu and Jiang Xing stood beside him. The power of the myriad music divine body and 4 desolate divine body was fully unleashed. The former summoned the phantom of a heavenly immortal and played a peerless immortal song. The latter gathered the power of the 4 seas and 8 desolates and turned it into an invincible fist. The other geniuses' divine bodies also displayed terrifying power. The Lin family's Lin Cheng's heavenly book divine body manifested a page of heavenly book that judged everything in the world. Yi Taiji's ancient treasury divine body manifested an ancient treasury. Hundreds of treasures appeared within it and rang continuously. Apart from that, the guardians of the other geniuses, experts from various forces, and rogue cultivators were like divine dragons that came out of the sea. Their aura was not inferior to the other geniuses at all. 1/to end all techniques. The sovereign body roared. It grabbed the time saber and slashed out a supreme saber light, forcibly tearing apart the power of the sovereign weapons and the divine bodies. It was incomparably tyrannical. This time, they had the opportunity to obtain a piece of the origin of gods. Moreover, Qin Nan had said that he would immediately refine it after obtaining it. The sovereign body and time saber did not hesitate and displayed their true peak power this time. In the past, immortal Emperor Zhu Fa stood proudly in the heavens and was killed by other immortal emperors. How could the other immortal emperors compare to their strength? Although Qin Nan's cultivation was too weak and had completely restricted their strength, they still had the foundation after guarding the Qin family for so many years. They could still display the true intent of the Zhu Fa. Jiang Hongxiu, Li Huai, and Lu Chao immediately turned into 3 rays of light and flew into the mountain range, rapidly approaching the karmic fire medallion. Dong Wangqing, the 3 ladies of the Yu family and the other geniuses narrowed their eyes. They no longer cared about Qin Nan and unleashed all kinds of powerful attacks to kill Jiang Hongxiu and the other 2. They also quickly rushed towards the mountain range. Set up the formation. Jiang Xiaoya and the other ladies beside Qin Nan, Li Huai's protectors, and Lu Chao's protectors all formed seals. Like a towering tree, they took root in the void and extended countless branches and leaves, completely blocking Qin Nan and the Lord of the Blue Dome. Humph! Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu's eyes were cold. They naturally understood that this was Jiang Hongxiu's overt scheme. Once she stepped into the vicinity of the karmic fire medallion, no one would care about Qin Nan and the others. However, Jiang Hongxiu, Qin Huan's cultivation is too weak. You have to use most of your strength to protect him to prevent a sneak attack. Now, with just the 3 of you, what can you do? Jiang Hongxiu, this time, you will definitely lose. Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu thought to themselves. Soon, the geniuses and the peak divine emperors all rushed into the mountain range. The power of the sky-burning and immortal-slaying force was fully displayed. The terrifying fire penetrated all of their magic treasures and techniques and burned their bodies and souls mercilessly. Waves of pain rushed into their minds like a tidal wave. At this moment, everyone had less than 1,000 breaths of time. In other words, every breath of time was extremely precious and could not be missed. They had to give it their all. Chapter 28:41. Outside the mountain range, peace was restored. Although many peak divine emperors could not withstand the burning sky's celestial slaying aura and chose to leave the mountain range and attack Qin Nan and the others, Qin Nan and the Blue Dome Master were like sheltered eagles. They did not feel the slightest sense of danger. Sigh. My cultivation is too low. The Blue Sky Lord stared at the mountain range and couldn't help but sigh. If I had known that this day would come, I would have raised my cultivation base properly. As someone with the innate chaotic body, he felt very uncomfortable being outside the storm. We can only rely on them now. Qin Nan felt the same way. At this moment, in the mountain range, my lord is here. All Dharma is destroyed. All Dharma is empty. The time blade in the imperial body's hand was extremely domineering. It was as if an immortal emperor had returned. He slashed out blade qi and blocked the 4 emperor weapons with his own strength. The 3 ladies of the Yu clan, Zhao Wushuang, Meng Dongji, and Lei Hongshan all had ugly expressions on their faces. Qin Huan's role had completely exceeded their expectations. They were now completely held back and couldn't free up their hands. Once any one of them had the thought of retreating, they would definitely be taken advantage of by the experienced and ruthless emperor physique to repel them one by one and completely suppress them. Everyone, we must not retreat. Otherwise, the situation will be dangerous. The 3 ladies of the Yu family immediately shouted. When Jiang Hongxiu is completely defeated, we will advance and retreat together to fight for the Hellfire token. The other 3 supreme talents cursed in their hearts. However, there was nothing they could do now. On the other side, Dong Wangqing, Jiang Xing, Jiang Chu, Lin Qing and more than 20 supreme talents and more than 100 peak divine emperors used their most powerful techniques at the same time. Born as a sage king wielding supreme intent. Immortal slaying divine tune, enter my body. For desolation ancient kingdom, turn my body into a sword. Terrifying power was released and it evolved into various shocking avatars. Even under the boundless fire, it was still bright and dazzling like the stars in the night sky. Jiang Hongxiu flicked her finger, and the exquisite chessboard was set up. He made a hand seal and summoned Jiang Taishu's shadow again. He also activated the remaining power of the Immortal Emperor's talisman to disperse the rolling Emperor's pressure. 4 extremes immortal swords. Lu Chao raised his head and roared. He sacrificed his emperor blood to the immortal sword. The immortal emperor will in the sword completely erupted, turning into golden sword energy that rushed into the clouds. Extreme Yang power. Li Huai's extreme Yang divine body was instantly pushed to its limit. Not only that, he slammed a hand seal and unleashed an emperor's aura. The heavenly steel of sun and moon floated above his head. The moment he arrived at the mountain range, the Blue Dome Master had already lent him the heavenly steel of sun and moon. Even though he was a peak divine emperor, he wasn't the owner of the steel of sun and moon, so he couldn't use the monarch weapon's power. However, he wasn't using the steel of sun and moon to kill his enemies. The moon spirit sprinkled moonlight from the steel into their bodies, giving them invisible support and healing their injuries quickly. The sun spirit unleashed even more power. She used the extreme yang power to summon 3-legged golden crows, flying in all directions. She summoned 9 strands of heaven-burning, immortal-slaying fire will from the mountain range, shooting out like divine arrows and attacking in all directions. The 3 of them did all this in an instant, which was amazing. However, the moment the great battle broke out, the 3 of them were suppressed and were forced to retreat. They were like 3 flames that were attacked by endless darkness. There were too many opponents. Although they were powerful, the other geniuses also had all kinds of amazing trump cards. It was no exaggeration to say that if they didn't have the heavenly steel of sun and moon, which created the geographical advantage, they would have been defeated. Boom, boom, boom. Deafening roars reverberated above the mountain range. The terrifying collisions turned into all kinds of astral winds that swept across the heavens and earth. The space of hellfire was extremely powerful and was not something that could be easily shaken. However, many cracks had already appeared in the space due to the impact of the space of hellfire. Jiang Hongxiu and the other 2 unleashed amazing willpower. They didn't care about life and death and were fearless. They continuously attacked with all kinds of ancient forbidden techniques, but they were still powerless. They were forced to retreat and seemed to be farther and farther away from the Hellfire Medallion. The Lord of the Blue Dome's eyes shone with divine light. He looked at the scene from afar, as if he was also a part of it. He narrowed his eyes slightly and felt depressed. If I don't get the origin of gods this time, I will definitely settle the score with these people after I achieve great success in my cultivation. I will let them have a taste of bullying others with numbers. The Lord of the Blue Dome laughed coldly. He was not a generous person at all. Instead, he was very petty and held grudges. Qin Nan glanced at him. If all this wasn't an illusion, those geniuses would never have dreamed that their future depended on the result of today's battle. Time passed bit by bit. Jiang Hongxiu and the other two were like moths to a flame. They kept moving forward without care. The injuries on their bodies were increasing. They looked extremely pathetic, as if they had lost all of their former glory. Now, every breath was a huge challenge for them. If they were not careful, they would be in danger of dying. However, their gazes became brighter and sharper. Even if they were to become enemies with the world, they would never back down. That was because they were the true geniuses. Unparalleled sword comprehension. Lu Chao was suppressed by the crowd. His heart sword hummed continuously. With a roar, he broke through and stepped into the Tao realm. His sword light became extremely condensed. Between life and death, there was also a great opportunity. All dangers could be used as a whetstone. Li Huai, can you still do it? Lu Chao swung his sword in all directions and roared. If you can do it, why can't I? Li Huai was extremely excited. His true essence of extreme yang had reached an unprecedented peak. He felt like a fish in water under the fire. A dazzling flower blooms in thousands of worlds. Jiang Hongxiu was like a nine heavens goddess. She waved her hand and a divine flower bloomed. If this was a one-on-one battle, they would be able to turn the situation around after breaking through to the impending realm. However, the disparity between them was too great. Their actions were like the anger of a trapped beast, causing the cage to tremble. Jiang Hongxiu, you have lost. You have no chance. If you agree to be my concubine, I will help you get the Hellfire badge. What do you think? Dong Wangqing laughed. He had already summoned the unparalleled Celestial Emperor Shadow and merged them into one. He was like an immortal emperor, majestic and unparalleled. Get lost. Jiang Hongxiu's reply was simple and powerful. Do you understand? Get lost. Li Huai and Lu Chao shouted at the same time. It's a pity that you are fighting because of your personal feelings. You have disappointed me. Dong Wangqing shook his head and waved his hand to summon endless holy light and holy might. Boom, boom, boom. The battle became more and more terrifying. Some peak divine emperors had already fallen. The surrounding mountains trembled slightly. The sky-burning and immortal-slaying momentum was also affected and impacted. Lu Chao and Li Huai tried their best to fight back. They used all their techniques and wills. However, at the 90th breath's time, Lu Chao was suddenly pushed back by a huge force. His blood qi was in turmoil. Before he could react, a dazzling light pierced through his body like a spear and nailed him to the void far away. Chapter 2842. Look at the sea of books. This was a peerless fighting soul. The light was extraordinary. The moment it pierced through Lu Chao, 9 shocking wills burst out from it. 3 of them attacked his body, 3 of them attacked his consciousness and 3 of them attacked his soul. Even though Lu Chao's divine body was amazing and he had the sword embryo, sword heart and sword soul in his body, he was already injured. Such a blow made his face pale. However, a sword cultivator would press forward. Lu Chao looked up and roared. He ignored the warning from the sword heart and rushed forward. The celestial sword in his hand turned into countless residual shadows. However, the other talents and peak divine emperors would not miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They attacked with all kinds of killing moves, covering the sky and covering the earth. They were even fiercer than before. Li Huai's eyes narrowed and he shouted, "Lu Chao, don't resist it. Retreat." Lu Chao turned a deaf ear to him and continued to advance. He could still fight. If he could fight for one more breath of time, he would fight for one more breath of time. One sword breaks mountains and rivers, two swords shake heaven and earth. Lu Chao displayed the forbidden sword art. Magnificent sword essence spread out in all directions. 3 swords move the sun and moon, 4 swords shatter the void. Countless sword chi burst out like a heavy downpour. Many peak divine emperors' faces changed when they sensed the sword chi. They didn't dare to resist the sword chi directly. They kept retreating and casting spells to defend themselves. Lu Chao attacked faster and faster. More and more sword chi appeared. The invisible sword essence kept stacking up and becoming more and more terrifying. It was as if it was going to transform into a terrifying existence. "You're at the end of your tether and you want to stir up trouble," Jiang Xing said coldly. An illusory mountain appeared behind him, and with the power to strike the heavens, it smashed towards Lu Chao. This was the illusory image of the 4 Desolates' sacred mountain. Its original body was a terrifying existence that could suppress the 4 seas and 8 wastelands. It could even suppress the celestial emperors. The sword soul in Lu Chao's body came out of its scabbard and slashed out. Shattering celestial song. Jiang Hai waited for an opportunity to make his move. Countless screech-like sounds rang out, composing a strange melody, bursting out with a majestic invisible power. Boom! 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 Lu Chao retreated and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale. Moreover, no one gave him a chance to take a breather. The peak divine emperors around him were like a pack of hungry wolves. They seized the opportunity and quickly rushed towards him. At this moment, not only was his sword no longer dazzling, it was like a small boat in a storm that filled the sky, about to be drowned at any moment. "Why aren't you leaving?" Li Huai, who was in the distance, was anxious and angry. Lu Chao was still going against him. He forcefully swung 1 sword, 2 swords, 10 swords, 100 swords. When his chest was pierced through again, his sword embryo shattered, his sword heart cracked, and his sword spirit trembled, he let out a roar of unwillingness. Only then did he reveal his trump card. He arrived at Qin Nan's side. The master of the Blue Dome had a solemn expression. He had long since been prepared. He took out heavenly materials and earthly treasures to heal his injuries and stabilize them. Qin Nan was silent for a while. If it was before, he still had some prejudice against Lu Chao, but now it was all gone. The great battle was still going on. Previously, when Lu Chao was still around, he could still form a simple tripartite formation with Jiang Hongxiu and Li Huai, leaving his back to the other party and evenly resisting the enemies in front of him. However, this balance had been broken now. The pressure on Jiang Hongxiu and Li Huai instantly multiplied. In just a breath's time, there were dozens of injuries on their bodies. Li Huai's injuries were especially serious. One of his arms had already been chopped off by Dong Huangqing. Li Huai grinned hideously. 33 drops of bright divine blood burst out from his body. Each drop was like a burning flame. Sky-burning fire force fuse. Li Huai formed a seal and borrowed the power of the divine steel of sun and moon to forcefully draw out 33 wisps of sky-burning fire force and fuse them into each drop of divine blood. Boom! In an instant, the 33 drops of divine blood transformed into 33 phoenixes. Their bodies were burning with faint black flames. In this continuous mountain range, their aura kept rising as if they were assisted by the gods. This move was incomparably powerful, but the price Li Huai paid was not small. His complexion turned deathly pale, and his aura fell to rock bottom. It was as if he had turned from a high and mighty young master to a mortal. "Hongxiu, this is all I can do for you. You have to rely on yourself from now on." Li Huai was unwilling to give up. However, He had no choice but to return to Lu Chao's side due to the depleted energy in his body. The 97th breath's time. Jiang Hongxiu was the only one left. She had to face more than 20 supreme talents and more than 100 peak divine emperors. Jiang Hongxiu's expression did not change. She activated the exquisite chessboard. She immediately dodged the attacks and landed on one of the phoenixes. The 33 phoenixes let out a long cry and soared into the sky. Jiang Hongxiu stood on one of the phoenixes and used the Jiang family's forbidden technique, sovereign descent. Thousands of sword qi, saber qi, spear qi, and so on appeared in the void. When Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu saw this, they were delighted. In their opinion, Jiang Hongxiu was like a moth flying into a flame. Not only was it meaningless, but there was even a risk of her death. The three ladies of the Yu family heaved a sigh of relief. The outcome had been decided. No matter how powerful Jiang Hongxiu was, she could not change the outcome. Peerless Holy Empire. Dong Wangqing also used his forbidden technique and transformed it into the legendary ancient Holy Empire. It covered the sky and was majestic. There was no need to say any more nonsense. He did not want to say any more. What he wanted to do now was to completely defeat this woman. Since he had taken a fancy to her, he had to get his hands on her no matter what. Boom, 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 boom. Jiang Hongxiu and the 33 phoenixes were almost instantly suppressed. At the 99th breath's time, Jiang Hongxiu injected the exquisite divine blood into each of the phoenixes, causing them to transform again. However, 19 of the phoenixes were still beaten into nothingness. None. Once the phoenixes were gone, Jiang Hongxiu would be severely injured and lose her ability to fight. However, at this moment, Jiang Hongxiu's eyes lit up. The 100th breath's time had come. The burning sky and punishing immortals' momentum once again showed its terrifying power. A flow of boundless power, like a torrential sea, surged down from the sky, crashing into the entire mountain range, crashing into the consciousness of every god's chosen one and every peak divine emperor. In the sea. They had already expected this and were prepared for it. However, they had underestimated the power of the burning heavens and celestial slaying momentum. All the spells, talismans and magical weapons that they had secretly activated had lost their effect. Boom! A loud sound exploded in everyone's heart. Their sea of consciousness was severely injured and shattered. This terrifying blow and the intense pain caused everyone to lose consciousness temporarily. Their bodies froze on the spot as if they had been petrified. Even the weapon spirits of the Emperor weapons felt their vision go black and temporarily lost their ability to sense anything. The killing intent between the heavens and the earth suddenly disappeared. Everything seemed to be quiet. Chapter 2843. What a terrifying aura! Outside the mountain range, the peak divine emperors from various forces were horrified by the sight. If they were in the middle of it, they would not be able to withstand it and their consciousness seas would shatter. There's hope. Qin Nan, Lu Chao, Li Huai, and the master of the blue dome brightened up. At that moment, a loud cry of a phoenix was heard from the mountain range. Then, 14 phoenixes spread their wings and flew toward the Hellfire badge. The phoenix in the middle was carrying Jiang Hongxiu, who had lost consciousness. What's going on? The peak divine emperors from other forces were shocked and they wanted to rush over. However, as soon as they took a step forward, they felt a chill in their hearts. It was not that someone had attacked them. The entire mountain range was still shrouded in an invisible force. As long as they set foot in it, they would suffer a terrifying impact. However, why were the phoenixes still there? Even terrifying existences like monarch weapons were affected. Phoenixes that were created using divine abilities should also be affected by the impact and lose their intelligence. They had not participated in the battle in the mountain range. Of course, they did not know that Li Huai had created the phoenixes with the power of the sky-burning, immortal-slaying force. In other words, the phoenixes were created by the sky-burning, immortal-slaying force. How could they be affected? This was the strategy that Li Huai and the other two had come up with. Given their strength, they would not stand a chance if they fought head-on. Hence, they had to take a gamble. They had to gamble that everyone would suffer a huge impact when the time came. If they won the gamble, they still had a chance. If they did not win the gamble, everyone would not suffer a huge impact and would not lose consciousness temporarily. If the Emperor weapons and Emperor-to-be weapons were affected, their actions would be meaningless. After all, in terms of combat strength, the original 33 phoenixes were not as powerful as Li Huai and the steel of sun and moon. At that moment, the phoenixes let out a long cry and soared into the sky. Their speed was incomparably shocking, and it didn't take long for them to arrive at the top of the tallest mountain peak. They were only 3,000 meters away from the Hellfire Medallion, and they only needed to flap their wings again to swoop down and take down the Hellfire Medallion. Oh no! The faces of the peak divine emperors of the other forces suddenly darkened, but they could only watch helplessly. They had already tried to transmit their divine sense to the other proud sons of heaven. They had also used many other methods, but it was all to no avail. The other proud sons of heaven would need at least several breaths of time to recover. However, at this critical moment, a demonic voice suddenly resounded through the heavens and earth. 3 resplendent rays of light then rushed over from afar and slashed towards the phoenixes like divine swords. The phoenixes couldn't help but release a cry. They stopped their momentum and released roiling divine flames to burn this radiance. Jiang Hongxiu, nice move. However, aren't you underestimating the heavenly abyss bell too much? They were Yushuailing, Yushuaiyao, and Yushuiyu. The other heaven's chosen one's preparations did not work at all. However, it was different for them. The heavenly netherworld bell was an emperor weapon that targeted one's consciousness and soul. Even if the burning heavens and celestial slaying momentum was extremely powerful, it could still instantly wake them up. Swoosh! The 3 ladies of the Yu family arrived in an instant. Divine light shone from their bodies. The Qi Yao divine body, heavy water divine body, and Xian Xian divine body that they had awakened were all activated to the maximum at this moment. The 13 phoenixes were not afraid at all. They directly charged towards the 3 ladies, trying to attract their attention. The Ling Long divine blood that Jiang Hongxiu had injected into their bodies made them very intelligent. They already knew how to use battle tactics. However, they were now facing 3 heaven's chosen ones. In the blink of an eye, the heavy waters swept out and flooded all directions. The Qi Yao divine country and the Xian Xian secret realm all appeared and suppressed the phoenixes. The 14 phoenixes were suppressed in an instant. Jiang Hongxiu, it's a pity that you don't have a chance. Yushuailing laughed. She was in a good mood. With their cultivation, they only needed a few breaths of time to kill the phoenixes. After a few breaths of time, when Jiang Hongxiu woke up, 2 of them would be able to stop her. The remaining one would be able to effortlessly take away the Hellfire token. Yushuaiyao and Yushuiyu were also in a good mood. Jiang Hongxiu, you took away our half-cloud immortal king flower. Now, we will take away your Hellfire token. However, at this moment, a gray flame started burning on Jiang Hongxiu's body without any warning. Swoosh! Jiang Hongxiu's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened and let out a dazzling divine light. You! The 3 ladies of the Yu family were shocked. Before they could react, they heard Jiang Hongxiu's voice. Great exquisite chessboard. Lines of wondrous formation runes appeared in the void, forming a huge chessboard. The underworld chess master saw them as chess pieces and threw them all out of the chessboard. Great! Outside the mountain range, Li Huai and Lu Chao could not help but exclaim in admiration. They looked excited. This was their real trump card. Before entering the Hellfire Gate, Qin Nan had used the means of the Blue Dome Master to silently inject the spacetime fire into Jiang Hongxiu's body and lay dormant. If there were any unforeseen circumstances, he would ignite the spacetime fire and engulf Jiang Hongxiu's entire body. Jiang Hongxiu's body would be restored to its original state an hour ago. In this way, not only would Jiang Hongxiu regain her consciousness, but her injuries would also be healed. She would return to her peak state. If there were any unforeseen circumstances when the phoenixes took away the token, Jiang Hongxiu would suddenly attack and catch everyone off guard. She would then turn the situation around. Leisure Book City is a free-source changing application software for reading books. Android phones require Google Play. Download and install it. Apple phones require non-Chinese accounts to download and install. Chapter 2844. Exquisite Sacred Fire, Illuminate the Heavens. Jiang Hongxiu, who was in her peak state, was extraordinary. Just as the chessboard was set, countless exquisite flames surged out. They turned into towering mountains and pressed down on the three women from the Yu family. The three women from the Yu family felt a chill in their hearts. They instinctively used their techniques to block the attack. However, their actions also prevented them from chasing after Jiang Hongxiu. What is going on? The three women from the Yu family were still in shock and confusion. Even if they had the Tian Yu bell, they would not be able to regain consciousness under the impact of the heaven-burning, immortal-slaying force if they were seriously injured. But now, not only was Jiang Hongxiu awake, but her injuries had also completely healed. Even if she had taken the Emperor Pill refined by the Immortal Emperor in advance, it would not have such an effect. They would never have thought that the key to all this was the person they all thought was an ant, a good-for-nothing. If they had known that Qin Nan had such a technique, they would have done everything they could to expel Qin Nan from the Hellfire Pass when they entered. Jiang Hongxiu ignored them. Her beautiful eyes immediately looked at the Hellfire token below. Even though the outcome was already decided, she did not waste any time. She flashed in front of the Hellfire token and reached out to take it. "We got it!" Lu Chao, Li Huai, and the Master of the Blue Dome were overjoyed. Qin Nan was also overjoyed. However, at this moment, he suddenly had a very bad premonition. The spacetime cannon in his body started to operate on its own. Dang! There was a powerful sound of a bell. Jiang Hongxiu's movements suddenly froze. It was as if a majestic force had descended from the heavens and bound her completely. She could not move at all. What is this? The Master of the Blue Dome and the other two were shocked. In the sky above the battlefield, an illusory bell appeared. It was more than 900 feet high and it shone with golden light. It shone on all the geniuses and peak divine emperors. Qin Nan looked at the bell. For some reason, the spacetime cannon in his body began to circulate faster and faster. It was like boiling water. Could it be? A thought suddenly crossed Qin Nan's mind. "Qin Huan." An indifferent voice sounded. A figure flew up from the ground and landed on the illusory bell. This figure was a young man. He was dressed in black and had an ordinary appearance. His aura was also very ordinary. During the previous battle, almost no one had noticed his existence. However, the young man's eyes were fixed on Qin Nan like stars. His aura had changed completely too, becoming as deep as an abyss. "I am the current Spacetime Temple's holy son, Shi Tianjun." The young man's words immediately shocked Lu Chao, Li Huai, the three women of the Yu family, Jiang Xiaoya, and the other cultivators of the 5 realms. "What? Shi Tianjun? Didn't you fall 50 years ago?" Lu Chao couldn't help but ask. Shi Tianjun ignored him. He glanced at Qin Nan and said calmly, "You've surprised me. You already have the seal of time and space when you're only in the ruler realm. It seems like you're not a prodigal son after all. It's only a disguise." I originally wanted to kill you immediately and take the spacetime seal, but I didn't expect that you have the Emperor's body and Emperor's weapon guarding your body. However, this won't change the result. It will just take more time. Qin Huan, my hunt for you has begun. Since Jiang Hongxiu is your cultivation partner, I will first take away the exquisite inheritance from her. As soon as he finished speaking, the illusory bell rang again. A beam of bright light burst out from the bell and shone on Jiang Hongxiu's body like the light from the ancient sun. This was the spacetime light. Shi Tianjun was the spacetime temple's holy son and had obtained a spacetime artifact. His understanding of the spacetime canon naturally surpassed Qin Huan's. Qin Huan's time and space Saint Flame could reverse time and space in the place it burned, returning them to an hour ago. Therefore, Shi Tianjuan's light could not only extinguish Qin Huan's spacetime sacred fire, but it could also return Jiang Hongxiu to an hour ago. In other words, Jiang Hongxiu would temporarily lose her consciousness again. Her spiritual sea would shatter again, and her injuries would reappear. Oh no! Qin Nan's eyes narrowed. He and the Blue Dome Master didn't expect Shi Tianjun to arrive so quickly. He had been hiding among the cultivators without revealing anything. F***ck. The Blue Dome Master's face instantly turned ugly. They had already reached this stage. How could there be more problems? What should they do now? This was all their tactics. They had no other backup plans. Hongxiu, Lu Chao, Li Huai, Jiang Xiaoya, and the others' expressions changed drastically. Man proposes, God disposes. The three women of the Yu family reacted. They felt the power of the exquisite sacred mountain disappear instantly. They easily shattered it and smiled like flowers. Jiang Hongxiu looked at the hellfire token that was close at hand. Her spiritual sea shattered again, and all her injuries were healed. The pain that erupted was far more intense than before. She couldn't help but see black. Everything around her turned pitch black. It was as if an abyss was swallowing her. The terrifying thing was that the power in her body had dried up. Facing such a situation, she was almost powerless to struggle or resist. Was she going to fail? Chapter 28:45. No. She could not accept this. When she was still young, her father had told her many stories about the immortal emperor. She was fascinated and looked forward to it. She had told her father that she wanted to become an immortal emperor in the future. Her father had laughed and thought it was a joke. However, this small dream had taken root and germinated in her heart as she grew up. She became more and more determined. The heavens were still looking out for her. She quickly awakened her divine body, and her martial arts talent was naturally superior to ordinary people. The Jiang family's resources were also quickly tilted toward her. There were all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, as well as all kinds of supernatural powers and cultivation methods. However, she soon realized that a young eagle under protection would not be able to soar. Therefore, she left the Jiang family and hid everything. Like an itinerant cultivator, she headed to other worlds. She had gone deep into countless ancient forbidden areas. She had fought with the geniuses of various forces. She had also been hunted by various major forces. She had even been chased by emperor-to-be experts. However, she had made it all the way. This was her belief. She could rely on her own strength to take one step at a time and eventually become an immortal emperor. She would become a legend in the mouths of others. However, if she could not even obtain the Hellfire token, which was so close at hand, how could she realize her childhood dream? At that moment, Jiang Hongxiu's willpower completely erupted. Even though the power in her body had dried up, she still used all her strength to struggle in the darkness. She did not know what the outcome would be. She had never thought about the outcome. However, at that moment, she would fight with everything she had. Swoosh! Suddenly, a beam of light seemed to have come from endless time and space. It entered the darkness and shone in all directions. An illusory old man stood at the end of the light. Although his facial features could not be seen clearly, one could feel that he was smiling. Junior, if you want to accomplish something, it is far from enough to rely on your own willpower. However, everything can only be started with willpower, and only then can there be a possibility of completion. The old man said with a smile. Great Void. Ancestor? Jiang Hongxiu recognized the old man very quickly. However, why would Ancestor Great Void's willpower evolve at this moment? Hadn't she already received the recognition of the Great Void Ancestor and received his inheritance? The inheritance I left behind in the Ancestor's land was just a test. You have already passed the test. The Great Void Immortal Emperor's voice was faintly discernible. Junior, let me ask you. I have a spell called the Great Void Forbidden Curse. Are you willing to use it? The power of this technique was unparalleled and extraordinary, but once it was used, one would definitely be cursed. If you can reach the Immortal Emperor realm within 20 years, you will be able to extend your lifespan by 100 years. If you can become an Immortal Emperor within 100 years, you will be able to remove the curse. However, if one doesn't become an Immortal Emperor within 20 years, or if one doesn't become an Immortal Emperor within 100 years, then one's body and Tao will vanish, turning into dust. Becoming an Immortal Emperor in 100 years. As far as Jiang Hongxiu knew, there were only a handful of people who started from the peak of the Divine Emperor realm and became Immortal Emperors within 100 years. Moreover, almost all of them had awakened the innate constitution. The only person Jiang Hongxiu knew who had only awakened the divine physique and became an Immortal Emperor within 100 years was this Ancestor in front of her. This was also one of the reasons why the Ancestor was called a legendary Immortal Emperor. Junior, you don't have much time to consider. Answer me, are you willing or not? The Great Void Immortal Emperor's expression turned serious, and his voice became as loud as thunder, as if it could shake people's hearts. Jiang Hongxiu stared at the light. She had hesitated about many things in the past, but now she didn't hesitate at all when it came to the most important thing in her life. If the Ancestor could do it, why couldn't she? Even if the Ancestor couldn't do it, no one else in the universe could do it. Why couldn't she do it? 100 years passed in the blink of an eye, and so did 10,000 years. Buzz. An invisible and majestic aura was released from Jiang Hongxiu's body. It was like a huge wave in a calm sea. At this moment, Shi Tianjun, the three ladies of the Yu family, and the Blue Dome Master outside the mountain range, Qin Nan, and the others all felt the change in Jiang Hongxiu's body. The three ladies of the Yu family's expressions changed slightly. Their eyes flashed, and without any hesitation, they used the Yu family's forbidden technique at the same time. A terrifying power bloomed in the void. Great Void Forbidden Curse. A powerful aura suddenly erupted from Jiang Hongxiu's body. It was like a goddess who had been sleeping for a long time had finally opened her eyes, stunning the entire world. She struck out with her palm, and the will of the Great Void surged out, directly shattering the Yu clan's forbidden technique. She flicked her finger, and a Great Void sword shot out, forcibly shattering the space-time light. What kind of forbidden technique is this? How did her power become so terrifying? The three ladies of the Yu family narrowed their eyes. At this moment, Jiang Hongxiu made them feel a chill in their bones. Forbidden technique? Shi Tianjuan's eyes flashed, and a fighting spirit ignited in him. Let me see how strong your forbidden technique is. Heaven Ascending Bell, suppress. He stepped into the sky and formed a hand seal. The illusory bell instantly rushed above Jiang Hongxiu, and a majestic power erupted. The Heaven Ascending Bell was the space-time artifact. The power it released was no ordinary power. It was mixed with the true essence of space-time. It could reverse time, accelerate time, and even cause space-time chaos. Jixiao Sacred Emperor Array. The three ladies of the Yu family regained their senses. They clenched their teeth and formed a hand seal. The three of their powers merged together, forming an ancient array that released a terrifying power. No matter what happened to Jiang Hongxiu, they had to stop her now. As long as they could stop her for a few breaths, the other geniuses would all wake up. At that time, no matter how strong Jiang Hongxiu's trump cards were, she would not be able to change the outcome. Chapter 2846. No. That's not enough. Shi Tianjuan's combat power is far beyond that of an ordinary genius. Furthermore, he has the help of the three women from the Yu family. Hongxiu only has a few seconds. The Blue Dome Lord's face turned ugly once again. Faced with such a lineup, how could Jiang Hongxiu defeat Shi Tianjun and the three women from the Yu family in just a few seconds? First seal spell. At this moment, Jiang Hongxiu's voice resounded in all directions. A divine will suddenly appeared behind her. Her originally shocking aura suddenly increased by 2 times. Exquisite light, illuminate all worlds. Jiang Hongxiu's body suddenly shone with a dazzling 9-colored light. Although the light was invisible, it contained an extremely majestic power of the void. It was like a torrential river that forced the heaven-ascending bell back and completely overshadowed the array formation of the three women from the Yu family. She can still become stronger? The three women of the Yu family revealed a trace of horror in their eyes. They had never seen such a terrifying forbidden technique. Heaven-ascending bell, space-time wheel. Shi Tianjun exploded with astonishing space-time power. He formed a seal and the heaven-ascending bell immediately turned into a black-and-white wheel that was about 1,000 feet in size. The moment it appeared, the surrounding void suddenly distorted. The exquisite light also became distorted. This wasn't the most terrifying thing. Jiang Hongxiu felt that the power of space-time wanted to reverse the various states in her body. Second seal spell. Jiang Hongxiu formed a seal with both hands and a second divine wheel appeared behind her. Not only did her aura soar, but she also released a king-like pressure. Jiang Hongxiu threw out a punch. With an extremely pure fist intent, she shook the space-time wheel. Her other hand turned into a palm and transformed into the exquisite palm print. It directly hit the array formation of the three women from the Yu family. With a loud bang, the three women spat out blood and were knocked back. The array formation collapsed. Shi Tianjuan's eyes narrowed. Even with his status, he was shocked by the power of this forbidden technique. Today, I want to see how long this forbidden technique can last and how strong it can become. As the Spacetime Temple's holy son, how could he be so easily intimidated? In less than a breath of time, Shi Tianjuan's magical seal arrived and he spat out a mouthful of gray blood. Spacetime Sea of Flames. Shi Tianjun flicked his finger, and the drop of gray blood instantly turned into a gray sea of fire with a radius of 10,000 zhang. Countless flames turned into serpents that roared at the sky and surged out. 3 disintegrations. Not only did Jiang Hongxiu condense another divine wheel behind her, but a lotus mark also appeared between her eyebrows. The lotus had 7 petals and 7 colors. It exuded a sacred aura. Her aura had disappeared, and so had her pressure. It was as if she had returned to calmness and had returned to being an ordinary person. However, such a state caused Shi Tianjuan's heart to explode with coldness. The master of the Blue Dome and the other peak divine emperors were all shocked. Even though they were far away, they could still feel how terrifying Jiang Hongxiu was. Was this still a forbidden technique? At this moment, Dong Huangqing, Lei Hongshan, Saint Jiang, Jiang Chu and the other supreme talents had all regained some consciousness. They instantly felt that something was amiss. They ignored the intense pain and quickly opened their eyes. This time they saw a shocking scene. Jiang Hongxiu was like an immortal emperor. She pressed down with her magical seal, and the heavens and earth within a radius of 10,000 li instantly turned pitch black. Even the power of the sky-burning and immortal-slaying force could not suppress it. All creation to the void. Jiang Hongxiu had struck out a peerless blow. Shi Tianjuan's expression changed drastically. He had completely lost his will to fight. He quickly took out an ancient talisman and used his trump card to save his life. Boom! The mountain peak shook violently, and hundreds of thousands of cracks appeared in the void. In this boundless scorching heat, there was suddenly another kind of deathly stillness. Dong Wangqing, Lei Hongshan, Jiang Xing, Jiang Chu and the other geniuses all felt their hair stand on end. The power that erupted from the battle was simply too terrifying. If they were to face it head-on, they wouldn't be able to fight back at all. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, Jiang Hongxiu's body swayed, and she held the Hellfire token in her hand. There was no one who could stop her. The Hellfire token has been obtained. The first stage is over. An icy voice immediately appeared. Wisps of energy descended from the fire of Karma Pass and wrapped around everyone's figure, forcefully bringing them to the dojo. There was dead silence in the training ground. Dong Wangqing, Lei Hongshan, Saint Jiang, Jiang Chu and the other supreme talents, including the peak divine emperors, were still in shock from the terrifying scene. What was going on? How did Jiang Hongxiu strike out with such a powerful force? Sister Hongxiu, Jiang Xiaoya and the others, as well as Qin Nan and the others, quickly came to their senses and walked towards Jiang Hongxiu. Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls were especially anxious. One should know that the more powerful the forbidden skill was, the greater the backlash and the greater the price one had to pay. Jiang Hongxiu had erupted with such a terrifying force. She must have suffered a terrifying backlash. I didn't. Jiang Hongxiu wanted to shake her head, but her face suddenly turned pale. Her aura fell to the bottom like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. Chapter 2847. Jiang Xiaoya and the others were shocked. They quickly took out various elixirs and treasures to feed Jiang Hongxiu. However, they were stopped by a hand. "Let me take a look at her first," the Lord of the Blue Dome said. "You." Jiang Xiaoya and the others wanted to refuse. However, Jiang Hongxiu said weakly, "I'm fine. I'm sorry to offend you." The Lord of the Blue Dome looked solemn. He activated a mysterious cultivation method. His hand glowed with divine light. He touched Jiang Hongxiu's wrist and closed his eyes to sense it. "Jiang Hongxiu, why are you doing this?" The three women from the Yu family looked at Jiang Hongxiu with complicated expressions and said, "You used such a forbidden skill. You must have hurt your origin source. You used all your strength to get the Hellfire token. How are you going to get the tokens later?" "Sister Hongxiu's decision has nothing to do with you." Jiang Xiaoya and the others looked at her coldly. If the three women had not interfered at the crucial moment, Sister Hongxiu would not have used such a forbidden skill. There is no mercy in front of the treasures. We will do our best. However, Jiang Hongxiu, we will not go against you anymore. If you can defeat the others in the next 2 stages, we will not stop you. The three women from the Yu family said seriously. After everything had calmed down, Jiang Hongxiu's will at the crucial moment was like a flame. It burned brighter and brighter in their hearts. They admired her. At this moment, everyone in the training hall understood what had happened through the other cultivators outside the mountain range. They came to their senses. No wonder she could unleash such a terrifying power. She used some kind of forbidden skill. TSK. This forbidden skill is not simple. It can increase one's strength by so much. The more powerful the forbidden skill is, the greater the backlash. Look at Jiang Hongxiu now. I'm afraid even her soul is injured. It seems that Jiang Hongxiu will not be able to recover in a short time. How can she participate in the next 2 stages? How can she compete? The peak divine emperors of various forces spoke out. Dong Wangqing, Lei Hongshan and the other geniuses felt relieved. Since this was the case, it was fine to let Jiang Hongxiu take the Hellfire token. It was even a good thing. There were still 2 more stages. Jiang Hongxiu was severely injured and couldn't fight anymore. She definitely couldn't take another token. Jiang Hongxiu has no chance of winning. That is to say, she will have to fight for the Hellfire token again. The minds of the elites started to become active. Jiang Sheng and Jiang Chu also reacted. Their expressions immediately turned from gloomy to sunny, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of their mouths. They were in a good mood. In their opinion, Jiang Hongxiu was too foolish this time. Under such circumstances, she had no chance of obtaining the inheritance of Ling Long. Yet, she still wanted to fight for the Hellfire medallion. What was the point of fighting for it? The end result was still the same. Moreover, Jiang Hongxiu had severely injured herself. It would take a long time for her to fully recover. At that time, it would most likely have an enormous impact on her ability to compete for the world treasure. However, for the 2 of them, the more ignorant Jiang Hongxiu was, the better they felt. Hee hee. At this moment, a cold laugh was heard. Although the voice wasn't loud, it contained an inexplicable power, causing the entire dojo to become cold. Everyone instinctively looked toward the source of the voice. They saw Shi Tianjun walking toward Qin Nan and the others from the other side of the dojo. Shi Tianjun was in a sorry state. His body was covered with hundreds of wounds of various sizes. Each of the wounds emitted a deathly aura. Although he had managed to survive Jiang Hongxiu's attack, he had suffered a great blow. You are Shi Tianjun? Dong Wangqing quickly recognized him, and a rare look of surprise appeared on his face. What? Shi Tianjun? The Shi Tianjun who was known as the top genius of the 5 realms 50 years ago? Didn't he die? Why is he still alive? Ah? The top genius of the 5 realms 50 years ago? Why haven't I heard of him? Damn, you don't even know who Shi Tianjun is? This person is not simple. 50 years ago, the geniuses of the 5 realms were no match for him in terms of cultivation speed, martial talent, and combat strength. He was the top genius back then. At first, many geniuses were not convinced, but after he cultivated to the peak of the Divine Emperor realm, he began to travel through the 5 realms and entered the major forces to challenge the strongest geniuses. It was said that he wanted to defeat all the geniuses of the 5 realms and become invincible, then enter the Immortal King realm. He had already defeated more than 30 Heaven's Pridelings and was in the limelight. However, when he was fighting with one of the Heaven's Pridelings, he accidentally killed the other party and angered that genius quasi-emperor teacher, so he was killed on the spot. I didn't expect him to survive. Gasp, he is so terrifying. The entire dojo was in an uproar. The peak divine emperors beside Shi Tianjun subconsciously took a few steps back. It's you. Jiang Chu's eyes were filled with fear. Back then, he had encountered Shi Tianjun in the 3 Saints space, and was almost severely injured by him. Dong Wangqing, Lei Hongshan, and the other geniuses' eyes flashed with a divine light. Their battle intent was faintly ignited. It was not the same as it was 50 years ago. Qin Nan heard their words and squinted his eyes. He did not expect the chosen saint of the Spacetime Temple to be so extraordinary. Your forbidden skill is very powerful. If this continues, I will definitely be severely injured. Shi Tianjun stopped and looked at Jiang Hongxiu. Suddenly, he changed the topic and said, however, this also makes me very unhappy. Since I have said that I will take away your Linglong inheritance, I will definitely take it away. Why do you have to resist? Why are you struggling? If I'm not wrong, you must be thinking of relying on the others to help you obtain the Divine Martial Token at the Divine Martial Pass when you're at the Divine Martial Pass, right? After all, only the divine martial pass requires martial arts talent and does not need to fight. Shi Tianjuan's gaze swept past the master of the Blue Dome, Li Huai and Lu Chao. Finally, his gaze landed on Qin Nan. He said coldly, "Then I will not go to the extreme Thunder Pass. Recuperate well. I will extinguish all your hopes in the third stage." Chapter 28:48. As soon as these words were spoken, many cultivators and geniuses, especially Jiang Xing and Jiang Chu, couldn't help but gloat in their hearts. Although it was not 50 years ago, there was no doubt that Shi Tianjun was powerful. Being targeted by such a person, it could be said that Jiang Hongxiu's last glimmer of hope was completely gone. After Shi Tianjun finished speaking, he did not give Qin Nan and the others a chance to speak. He turned and walked to the other side of the training hall and sat down cross-legged. The space-time light enveloped his body and healed his injuries. "This guy is too arrogant," Li Huai said angrily. "When we reach the divine martial pass, I want to see how strong his martial talent is." Qin Nan's eyes were cold. He also wanted to see how strong the martial talent of the former top genius of the 5 realms was. Lu Chao also wanted to curse, but before he could say anything, the Blue Dome Lord retracted his hand. This immediately tugged at everyone's heartstrings. "Fellow Zhao, how is Sister Hongxiu?" Jiang Xiaoya and the other 9 asked anxiously. The Blue Dome Lord had a strange expression. "Fellow Zhao, please speak your mind." Jiang Hongxiu had recovered some strength, but her face was still as pale as a sheet. "It's not a big problem, but you definitely can't participate in the next 2 stages." The Blue Dome Lord pondered and said, "Moreover, after this is over, you need to rest for a month. You can't use any heavenly treasures. You have to rely on yourself to recover." Li Huai, Jiang Xiaoya, Lu Chao, and the others immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was indeed not a big problem to be able to recover after a month of rest. They had originally imagined that it would be much more serious than this. "Lu Chao, Brother Zhao, let's take this time to raise ourselves to peak condition. Since Hongxiu can't participate, the 3rd stage will depend on us," Li Huai said solemnly. "That's right." Lu Chao nodded in agreement. "Fellow Taoists, I'll have to trouble you from now on," Jiang Hongxiu said softly. "Hongxiu, now that things have come to this, why are you still being so courteous with us?" Li Huai shook her head and did not say anything else. She sat down cross-legged and began to heal her injuries. When the master of the Blue Dome saw that they had all begun to meditate, he suddenly sent a voice transmission to Qin Nan. "Kid, you have to work hard for the 3rd stage. You must obtain the divine martial token for your Tao companion." Qin Nan frowned and said, "What do you mean? Is Hongxiu's condition very serious?" "I won't hide this from you. Your Tao companion's injuries are indeed not serious. However, this is the strange part. After using such a powerful forbidden technique, how could he only suffer such injuries?" The Blue Dome Lord said, "So, after a careful investigation, I found that her soul had been cursed." "Curse?" Qin Nan was stunned and could not help but think of immortal Emperor Zhu Fa. Back then, immortal Emperor Zhu Fa had been cursed, causing the Qin family to only have one heir and unable to live for more than 3,000 years. That's right, and this is a very powerful curse. It's similar to the type where one will definitely die if they don't reach a certain realm within a few years. I don't know the exact situation, and she probably won't say it, but it's definitely very serious. As the Blue Dome Lord spoke, he could not help but sigh. Your Tao companion is not simple. She clearly knows that her chances of winning are not high after obtaining the Hellfire token, but she still wants to give it her all. So, you better help her obtain the Divine Martial token. If she obtains the Exquisite Legacy, her cultivation will definitely increase very quickly, and she can quickly get rid of the curse. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold, but on second thought, all of this was just an illusion. When he awakened the innate martial body, the illusion would be destroyed, and none of this had ever happened. So, even if Jiang Hongxiu was afflicted with a terrifying curse, it did not matter. Even if all of this is just an illusion, I will definitely give it my all in this divine martial pass. I will definitely not lose to Shi Tianjun or anyone else. Qin Nan's eyes gradually sharpened. Time flew by, and very soon 10 minutes had passed. The second pass, the Supreme Thunder Pass, opened. On the vast training ground, other than Qin Nan's group and Shi Tianjun, all the other practitioners flew into the void. Looking up from the training ground, one could clearly see the scene in the Supreme Thunder Space. The Supreme Thunder Space was quite similar to the Hellfire Space. Endless purple lightning formed the sky, and endless blue lightning formed the earth. In the distance there was a vast black sea of lightning. Every drop of sea water was condensed from some kind of extremely terrifying supreme thunder power. In the middle of the sea there was a red light pillar. The Supreme Thunder Token must be under that light pillar. A great battle broke out instantly. This time, Lei Hongshan became the target of public criticism, because everyone knew that he had the Supreme Thunder Divine Body, which was greatly strengthened in the Supreme Thunder Space. However, Lei Hongshan was different from Jiang Hongxiu. He promised many benefits and still managed to rope in 10 supreme talent. Therefore, looking from the training ground, it looked as if there was a great battle between two powerful forces. From the looks of it, no one had the upper hand, and they were evenly matched. It was impossible to tell who would obtain the Supreme Thunder Token in the end. Qin Nan looked for a while, then retracted his gaze. He glanced at Shi Tianjun in the distance and slowly exhaled. He sat down with his legs crossed, and the true meaning of the Datong Heaven skill, space-time canon, and other cultivation techniques appeared in his mind, changing constantly. Chapter 2849. After an incense stick worth of time, the results of the Extreme Thunder Challenge appeared. Zhao family's Zhao Wushuang had unexpectedly merged with the Heaven Forgiveness Sword and joined hands with the Meng family's Meng Dongji to obtain the Extreme Thunder Token. All the cultivators were sent back to the dojo immediately. Zhao Wushuang, Meng Dongji. Lei Hongshan roared. His eyes were red and he exuded a terrifying aura. I, Lei Hongshan, will not live under the same sky as you. The other heirs who had helped Lei Hongshan were very calm. After all, they had already gotten their share of the benefit. Whether or not they obtained the Extreme Thunder Token had nothing to do with them. Ha, Taoist Lei, who can you blame for being weaker? Zhao Wushuang laughed. Meng Dongji sneered with disdain. He was not afraid of the threat at all. However, both of them glanced at Jiang Hongxiu unintentionally. Although Jiang Hongxiu had no hope, they could not be careless. Otherwise, if Jiang Hongxiu succeeded, the Extreme Thunder Token that they had spent so much effort to obtain would be useless. Dong Wangqing, who was standing on the other side, was not injured at all after the battle of the Extreme Thunder Pass. Instead, his aura was even stronger than before. This was because he had not been fighting for the Extreme Thunder Token wholeheartedly. Instead, he was using the power of the Extreme Thunder to refine his body and superpowers. His target was the Divine Martial Pass. He wanted to accumulate power and go all out to defeat Shi Tianjun, the so-called top genius. Then, he would obtain the Divine Martial Pass and use it to threaten Jiang Hongxiu. I will definitely be the winner of the third pass. Dong Wangqing was full of fighting spirit. In terms of martial talent, no one here was a match for him. Time passed by slowly. The dojo was silent. Everyone was using this short period of time to recover as much as possible so that they could reach their peak state. Soon, the time was up. The origin of gods formed by the connate martial body above the fairy palace immediately released a ray of light. It hit the void in the distance and formed an entrance that was thousands of feet wide. The aura that came from it was completely different from the Hellfire Pass and the Extreme Thunder Pass. It was peaceful, as if an ancient sacred ground had opened up. Everyone looked forward to it. Qin Nan and the others opened their eyes and flew into the divine martial pass together with the other geniuses. Jiang Hongxiu stayed where she was and watched the scene quietly. At such a critical moment, she was unusually calm. She had done everything she could and should have done. As for whether Qin Nan and the Master of the Blue Dome would be able to bring back the Shenwu Order, she didn't know, nor did she look forward to it. No matter what the outcome was, she could bear it. Simultaneously, in the divine martial pass, Qin Nan had just entered when he felt that his entire body was encompassed by a warm aura. It made him feel as if he was a fish in water, feeling extremely comfortable. However, before he could look around, he heard a series of rumbling sounds in his ears. Waves of terrifying pressure swept out. The Heaven Forgiveness Sword, the 10,000 Snow Wheel, the rest of the Monarch weapons, and the Pseudo-Monarch weapons all appeared. The Emperor body and Time Saber in Qin Nan's body also appeared instantly. "Qin Huan, get out of here!" Zhao Wushuang shouted and was about to unleash a terrifying killing intent. Only by eliminating the few people designated by Jiang Hongxiu would they be able to extinguish all of Jiang Hongxiu's hope. Shi Tianjun and Dong Wangqing also attacked. Although the two of them didn't have the support of Monarch weapons, their attacks were far stronger than ordinary geniuses. However, at this moment, an incomparably majestic aura descended from the sky, forcefully suppressing all the Monarch weapons, Pseudo-Monarch weapons, and all the cultivators. A cold voice also exploded. "Brute force is not allowed in the divine martial pass. If you do it again, you will be expelled immediately." Shi Tianjun, Dong Wangqing, Zhao Wushuang, and the other geniuses thought to themselves. They immediately stopped and kept their Monarch weapons and other weapons. The aura dissipated and everything returned to normal. "What is that?" Suddenly, a peak divine emperor exclaimed. Qin Nan and the others, as well as Shi Tianjun, Dong Wangqing, and the other geniuses, immediately looked towards the front. They were now in a vast darkness. Not far from them, there were 3,000 green stone paths that led straight into the darkness. They couldn't see the end of it. Every cyan stone path was emitting a hazy halo. It was as if they were formed by the condensation of infinite mysteries. They gave people a mysterious feeling that they contained infinite truth. These are the 3,000 martial paths. What is the martial path? The martial path doesn't refer to becoming stronger and breaking through to higher realms. It refers to the truth of the world. Once you grasp the truth, you can create cultivation techniques, forbidden techniques, divine abilities, and so on. The stronger the truth you grasp, the more powerful the cultivation techniques, forbidden techniques, divine abilities, and so on will be. The cold voice sounded. Even Jiang Hongxiu, who was on the training ground, could hear it clearly. This might be the only privilege she had as the exquisite body. All the cultivators who enter the divine martial pass can only choose one martial path and advance alone. After stepping into the martial path, there will be a martial heart demon. If you can't see through it, you might be trapped in it and go completely crazy. If you are afraid, you can still retreat now. The Shenwu badge is at the end of the path of cultivation. If only one person walks out of the path of cultivation, the Shenwu badge will belong to him. If 2 or more people walk out of the path of cultivation, a game of chess will be played, and the winner will receive the badge. Chapter 2850. As soon as he said that, many people frowned, including the geniuses. They immediately sent out their divine wills to communicate with each other. 3,000 martial paths, martial path inner demons. This was easy to understand. To put it bluntly, it depended on one's martial path talent and will. If one's martial path talent and will were strong enough, one would be able to see through the martial path inner demons. However, what was martial arts chess? Soon, they realized that they didn't know about martial arts chess. Even the Blue Dome Master had never heard of it. Don't disappoint me. You don't even have the right to play martial arts chess with me. That would be too boring. Shi Tianjun looked at Qin Nan and the others and said coldly. Then, he turned into a ray of light and flew forward, quickly disappearing from the green Dao path. On the green Dao path, Dong Wangqing and the other geniuses also stepped into their respective martial paths. It's a pity that we can't use force. Zhao Wushuang and the others, as well as Saint Jiang and Jiang Chu, felt a little regretful. If they could use force, they could directly defeat Qin Nan and the others, making them feel completely hopeless. But now they had a little more hope. However, Zhao Wushuang and the others didn't feel any pressure. Although there wasn't a clear division between the geniuses, Shi Tianjun, Dong Wangqing, and the others were obviously stronger than Li Huai and Lu Chao. In terms of martial path talent, Li Huai and Lu Chao definitely didn't stand a chance. Brother Zhao, with our strength, it's hard to say if we can play martial arts chess. This time, it's up to you. Li Huai and Lu Chao both looked solemn. Don't worry, I'll do my best. The Blue Dome Master nodded and gave Qin Nan a look. On the training ground, Jiang Hongxiu looked at the figures disappearing on the green Dao path. Her gaze swept past the Blue Dome Master and the others and finally landed on Qin Huan. Time passed by slowly. If one looked down from a high place in the divine martial paths, one would be able to see faint figures moving forward on the martial paths. Some were fast, some were slow, and some even took a few steps back. Those who were flying at high speeds were none other than Shi Tianjun, Dong Wangqing, the Master of the Blue Dome, and Qin Nan. The so-called inner demons of the martial Dao were actually referring to divine abilities and cultivation technique. Everyone who cultivated divine abilities and cultivation techniques would have some kind of understanding towards them. For example, in the 4-season sword reign, there would be people who thought that they had to slash out the wills of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. However, the inner demons of the martial path would be born from this. They would constantly evolve illusions, and through all sorts of details they would guide you. The true 4-season sword reign was to refine 4 swords. Each sword corresponded to a season, and these 4 swords formed a sword formation. If one's martial talent and willpower were insufficient, it would be very easy for them to be swayed. Then, they would sink deeper and deeper into it, unable to extricate themselves. In fact, every cultivator knew that the path of martial arts was ever-changing. Every divine ability would have different changes in the hands of every cultivator. However, the terrifying thing about inner demons was that they could easily make people forget themselves. If he couldn't see through it, he would have to indulge in it while he was awake. Previously, the Karmic Fire Trial and the Extreme Thunder Trial had ended very quickly, in about half an hour. However, the Divine Martial Trial was different this time. An hour had passed, and there was still no movement. Not only did the numerous azure paths seem to have no end, but every so often, a silent illusion would attack them, causing them to gradually feel despair. After another 2 hours, there was finally movement. However, by then, the immortal emperors had already been sent out one after another. Everyone's posture was a little wretched. Their faces were pale, and they were sweating profusely. From the beginning, there was no stopping. Every breath, a peak immortal emperor would be sent out. The originally quiet and desolate Dao Hall immediately became lively and lively. It was filled with liveliness. The 3,000 martial Daos are too scary. Yeah, I almost reversed my cultivation technique just now. Luckily, I crushed the divine protective talisman in advance and reacted at the crucial moment. It's fine if you have the divine protective talisman. Just now, I reversed my cultivation technique and forcibly cultivated the spirit-transforming heaven-mending art into the demonic burning heaven art. My body was injured. No wonder it is said that if only one person reaches the end of the martial way, he can directly take away the divine martial token. Judging from the situation of the martial way, I don't think the immortal emperors are any better. Haha, stop complaining. There is an even more pitiful one over there. I heard that Jiang Hongxiu's martial way talent is the best in the 5 realms. Coupled with the exquisite divine body and exquisite heart, almost no one can compare with her. If she could participate, she would have at least a 50% chance, but now she doesn't even have a 10% chance. Haha, that's right. When someone said this, he deliberately did not use his divine consciousness. Instead, he said it softly. The so-called softness was just a pretense. At such a short distance, Jiang Hongxiu could naturally hear it clearly. Jiang Hongxiu's face was expressionless, as if all this had nothing to do with her. Not long after, Li Huai, Lu Chao's protector, and Jiang Xiaoya and the other 9 girls returned from the martial way one by one. Through their conversation, Jiang Hongxiu roughly understood the situation of the martial way. This stage was not simple. Soon, some immortal emperors would be defeated. Just as she expected, not long after most of the peak immortal emperors had left the martial way, Zhao Wushuang, Yi Taiji, and Meng Dongji, the 3 immortal emperors, walked out of the martial way with gloomy faces. Chapter 28:51. To them, not being able to reach the end of martial Tao was a form of denial. Moreover, after they came out, they did not see the other geniuses, so their mood was naturally worse. It was as if their talents were weaker than the others. The 3 of them returned to the training ground very quickly. Most of the gazes were directed at them. They felt that there was a certain meaning in the gazes, making them exceptionally sharp. Zhao Wushuang took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Jiang Hongxiu's indifferent face and could not help but say, "The 3,000 martial Daos are no small matter. With Li Huai and Lu Chao's martial Dao talent, it will definitely be spread out very quickly. Your Ling Long inheritance is already out of the question." After saying this, the 3 of them felt a lot better. Compared to Jiang Hongxiu, losing a little bit of face was nothing. Moreover, after the divine martial pass was over, they would still be able to get the extreme thunder token. It could be said that they had gained a lot. Jiang Hongxiu glanced at them and ignored them. Jiang Xiaoya and the other girls were not as calm as her. Their hearts were in their throats as they stared at the 3 martial Daos. They had purposely walked behind to memorize the martial Daos of the Blue Dome Master, Li Huai, and Lu Chao. As time passed, more and more geniuses returned to the training ground, including Jiang Xing, Jiang Chu, Yan Yongning, Lei Hongshan, and Zhui Yu. Suddenly, another 2 people appeared at the entrance of the martial Daos. They were Li Huai and Lu Chao. Not only did they look pale, but the aura they emitted was also rather weak. It was obvious that they had suffered a lot in the illusion. Jiang Xing and Jiang Chu's eyes immediately lit up. Jiang Hongxiu, look. I was right? Zhao Wushuang could not help but smile. The outcome was set. Li Huai and Lu Chao flew over and glanced at Zhao Wushuang and the rest. Then, they transmitted their voices to Jiang Hongxiu. "Hongxiu, don't worry. Brother Zhao is extraordinary. There is no problem with his martial Dao talent." Although they had failed, they did not panic at all. Qin Huan is not out yet? Li Huai suddenly realized something and frowned slightly. Is he immersed in an illusion? At this point, he was no longer disgusted with Qin Nan. Moreover, he had gradually regarded Qin Nan as a person of the same bloodline. "I'm afraid so." Lu Chao thought for a moment and said, "However, he has the Emperor's body and the Emperor's weapon in his body. Even if he goes berserk, he can be pulled back at the crucial moment. On the contrary, it's a good thing that he's able to discover his own flaws through this experience. Yes, having an emperor's body and an emperor's weapon are indeed different. Li Huai sighed. From the beginning to the end, the two of them never thought that Qin Huan was still walking on the path of martial arts. Although Qin Huan's performance this time made them look at him in a new light, they, the proud sons of heaven who had awakened the divine physique, had all failed. How could Qin Huan possibly continue persevering? Jiang Hongxiu's eyes flickered, but she didn't say anything. At the same time, in the divine martial pass, if one were to look down from an extremely high place, they would realize that there were only a few dozen martial paths that were still walking. Moreover, most of them were already as slow as snails, unable to take a step forward even after a few breaths. Even Shi Tianjun, Dong Wangqing, and the Blue Dome Master had slowed down, only being able to take 2 to 3 steps per breath. This was because they had already reached the latter half of the path of martial arts. The illusions that were produced had become even more terrifying. Before their eyes, martial arts no longer existed. Instead, it was replaced by an unfamiliar world. In the world, all sorts of things were happening. Some people were using their supernatural powers to fight, some were using their supernatural powers to preach the Tao, and so on. Even though they used their supernatural powers to block off their 5 senses and 6 senses, they could still clearly feel the different true essences flowing and impacting their Tao hearts. However, there was still one person who was several times faster than them. This person was Qin Nan. Of course, Qin Nan was able to be so fast not only because of his talent in martial arts, but also because of his low cultivation level. The lower one's cultivation level, the fewer techniques one would know. Not to mention, these proud sons of heaven all came from top-notch forces. They had seen various techniques and divine abilities since they were young. Suddenly, Qin Nan's footsteps came to a complete stop. This was because a very strange scene had appeared before his eyes. Right now, he was in a boundless desert. However, under the yellow sand that filled the sky, there was a hint of green. It was a 1-meter-tall sapling. It was unwilling to just grow like this. Even in this extremely harsh illusion, it was still absorbing energy from the earth with great difficulty. Suddenly, it seemed to have comprehended something. It began to produce countless glowing tree roots that pierced deeper and deeper into the earth. Qin Nan clearly saw the tree roots piercing through the ground and the rift. They arrived at a mysterious place and began to absorb formidable energy. The sapling immediately grew. It was 10 zhang tall within a breath, 100 zhang in 3 breaths, and 1,000 zhang in 10 breaths. It extended countless branches and leaves that shrouded the entire desert. It was brimming with vitality. Countless beasts were attracted to it. All kinds of trees and flowers grew around it, as if it was turning into a sacred place. Penetrate the heavens and earth, absorb the origin force. The towering tree uttered an ancient voice. Every leaf was emitting a mystical glow. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. The strength of the martial arts had greatly exceeded his imagination. Previously, he had been using the art of the immortal demon to create all kinds of illusions. He did not expect the art of the assimilation heavens to create illusions too. Interesting, I would like to see how you're going to evolve in the end. Qin Nan immediately walked toward the towering tree and entered it. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.